Okay, notice is hereby given of a Friendswood City Council regular meeting to be held at 4:30 on Monday, April 2nd, 2018 at Friendswood City Hall, Council Chambers, 910 South Friendswood Drive, Friendswood, Texas, regarding the items of business according to the agenda listed below. The mayor is ill, so since I'm the mayor pro tem, I'll be chairing the meeting. We also, Councilman Scott is out, so there's 5 of us. We still have a quorum, but I do want to remind all the members we still need 4 votes to pass anything. So, invocation, Mike, you ready for us?
Let's pray for a moment, please. Holy God, our hope is in you. And we pray your blessings on this gathering today. We pray special blessings on leadership in our community as we lift up our council members. Pray that they're blessed with fortitude and diligence and discernment. Lord, we're grateful for the spirit of leading in our community, and we're so thankful for Roger. And so we lift him up, and we pray, Lord, that this next chapter in his life will bring rich blessings and peace. And may that fill his journey with goodness. We thank you so much for his honorable service to our community. We pray your blessings on our city overall, our neighbors, our city employees and volunteers who step up and step in and do so much to make this such a great community to be a part of. So for Friendswood, we pray, Father, for the gift of peace, protection, and prosperity. Thank you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
If the council will allow it, we'd like to move item 9A up, just to get the auditors an opportunity to get out of here quickly, if they're here. Okay. So 9A, presentation of the 2017 annual financial audit. Hang on a second. Was I supposed to do the public comment first, or can I do it after that? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paula Lau with Patillo Brown & Hill, and I'm here today to present to you the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2017. And each of you should have a document of the comprehensive annual financial report and our single audit report as well. What I basically wanted to go over this afternoon is give you a brief overview of what our audit process is and a summary of what the results of that audit process is as well. So what we do as auditors, we come out and we look at internal controls and processes and get an understanding of those type of items that are going on at the city and what's going on at the city for the past fiscal year as well by reading minutes, talking to different individuals throughout the city too. And during that process, we perform a risk assessment, and it kind of turns us in the right direction to where we can maybe find things that could have gone wrong. And as each of you probably know, one of the things was with federal dollars this year and expenditures of those funds. And that also required us to do a single audit report this year in accordance with those standards. And so our results of the audit basically is on page 1 of the document. You'll find our independent auditor report, and that report says that we've rendered an unmodified opinion. And that opinion is a clean opinion and is the highest opinion that can be rendered as well. And a couple of things in the report is just ending fund balances. On page 21 of the document, you'll find the ending fund balance for the general fund of about $13.5 million, with unassigned fund balance being about $10 million for the year. It was a clean opinion, and great to work with Katina and Rhonda as well. Everything went very well during the audit, and we appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those as well.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you for the wonderful job.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, we're now going to go back to item 4, communication from the public. By the provisions of the Open Meeting Act, the City Council may not deliberate on any items discussed under this agenda item. The council may refer the item to the city manager if they're at the regular council agenda. PowerPoint presentations are not conducted during the citizen period. Do you have any comments? Is there anyone out there who'd like to speak at this time? Okay. Then we'll go to the work session. 5A, garbage collection issues. No?
Yes, sir. Council, you may recall, or let me back up. Council had asked for this item to be placed on the agenda relative to a number of phone calls the city as well as council members have received related to garbage pickup. As you are very well aware, Hurricane Harvey devastated a large part of the city of Friendswood, and as a result of that, have severely impacted our standard service operation when it comes to garbage pickup. We've asked that Waste Connections have a representative here tonight to somewhat speak to the issue that's at hand and see what solutions may exist in order to get ahead of the garbage game. So with that, I'll turn it over to Abel Moreno with Waste Connections to go through a short presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Council. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. First of all, my name is Abel Moreno. I am the district manager for Waste Connections. I've had the opportunity and have been given the great responsibility of taking over the district in September, a week or two after the hurricane. It has been a distinct honor. It's done a lot for my own development. I can say that. Many hours. But I'd like to talk a little bit about Waste Connections real quick. We are in the Houston area. We've got 8 assets, large assets, district hauling offices, 6 hauling offices, and 1 landfill and 1 transfer station. We entered Friendswood in 2016 with the Progressive merger. Just to go over the Hurricane Harvey impact, the increase in our overall tonnage in regards to waste, we averaged in 2016 and 2017 a monthly tonnage of 1,300 to 1,400 tons. In 2018, our monthly tonnage, we averaged 1,800. And I'd like to take note that this goes back to September 2017 into 2018. So this increase in tonnage was directly after the hurricane hit.
So that basically starting in September.
September 2017, yes.
But in 2018 there was a step increase in the amount of garbage after hurricane, or was it steady?
Basically, it's steady. It never came back to lower levels. It has maintained at 1,800 tons a month. Sir.
Can you go through this again one more time when this occurred? Because my recollection was that we had a storm debris contractor picking up all that additional trash. And God, I would think that for a month or more, you guys were picking up little to no household garbage from a lot of these houses because people aren't living in the houses.
Beginning in November, and this is in November of 2017, we started taking debris of 2 bags per household. So we started in 2017, we started taking extra tonnage, and of storm debris. And we offered this up to the city. City came to us and asked, what can Waste Connections do to help? Because it was ongoing. There was, at the time, I believe FEMA had made their last pass. I believe, I can't remember who the company that was used at the time, but they had already done their last pass, so we had gone through and assisted the city with extra bags of storm debris. And we've done that up until recently in March.
Well, I appreciate you stepping up to the plate. Just, quick off the top of my head, 400. Hang on.
We also, we had to add an extra truck, an extra route to be able to take this on. So before,
I'm just trying to figure out how you guys ended up with an increase of 28% in tonnage by picking up a couple extra bags per house. You know,
we had
storm
to,
debris. It was only 20% of the houses were flooded.
right.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just
If,
trying to make sure we're not getting some sunshine.
right, if
blown up our
it
stairs.
pleases the council, we got these tonnages off of, so when we go to a landfill, we get a ticket. Landfill ticket, it gets inputted into our calculations, and we create data. If we ever have an RFP with another city, we need to know what our average tons per day, all that, so we can place a proper bid if we ever have to go out to bid with another city. Well, what we do is we keep that data for every city that we pick up tonnage in, and that's how we got these numbers. We had to increase a route from 3 to 4 routes starting in November because of this extra bag pickup.
I'll listen to the rest of the story.
Okay. So with the extra tonnage, the expenses have risen 8K monthly, 8 to 9K, and the equipment expense with running an extra truck on the road, 4.5 thousand a month. This is the current service that we provide City of Friendswood, rear load service. Resident provides their own disposal container, more than one container plus trash, and the debris, which the 2 bags which we've been picking up until recently. Drivers, 2 helpers per truck, twice a week service, trash services Monday through Saturday, and recycling Monday through Friday with 1 truck. Solid waste, which is now 4 routes, recycling route, which is 1, and green waste, which is also 1 route. Now, starting in March, we had to increase, we just took on a really, really heavy amount of green waste. The first 2 weeks in March, we took on the double amount that we would normally take on for green waste. Current state. Now, I'd like to add, these pictures were taken on Friday by my supervisor, Jaime Castillo.
You're double the green waste number for March.
That's correct.
Is that against what you see on a typical week, or is that what you see year to year on that particular week? The
So,
reason I'm asking that question, weather's nice,
right.
stuff's starting to grow again. Logically, that would be when you're going to start seeing green debris
Right.
start showing up at the curb in larger amounts.
Absolutely.
I
Yes,
did
sir.
I'm in the middle of my spring cleaning right now.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And again, I'm just putting the facts out there. I'm not sitting here complaining that this is what we've got to go through. This is pretty typical this time of year, but also when you compound this with the storm debris, it does slow the vehicles down. And we do have suggestions on how we can combat this, and we have presented the city with various. We've offered a toll-free number to our own office for Harvey quotes for residents that wish to pick up the storm debris. We've done that. We've provided that for the residents. Okay.
A lot of that green waste was because we had an unusually hard freeze this
Right.
winter, and
Correct.
probably half the plants in Friendswood died. Also, when you allow people to put out 2 containers every pickup of storm debris, that actually doubles that particular house's waste, because normally 2 bags per house is the way I would figure it. So that increased it to 4, which a lot of people will put out there what you'll pick up, and I've never had anything out there you wouldn't pick up, so.
Correct. And this is current state. Like I said, Friday, the Black Hawk area, we had a supervisor, and you know, a lot of the construction debris that we're seeing is getting mixed in with the trash, and that is part of the issue. We do ask the citizens that if the construction debris is placed in bags, that we have no problem picking it up. Now, we have limited that till this past Saturday, which we are no longer picking up construction debris, but we are more than willing to offer the citizens a quote to come back and pick up construction debris. A lot of renovations, as you can see from the pictures. Yes.
I took a tour of some of our hardest hit areas last week, and a lot of the debris, or I would say at least 80% of it, was construction debris. The contractors are not picking up their scraps. And I don't know if there's some way to notify the citizens that that is actually their responsibility, but I do appreciate you offering to pick it up for a fee. That's a big deal for them, and they should take advantage of it.
Sure, a lot of people don't realize that they're probably paying for that service with the contract that they're signing with these people that are doing the work, and they just need to remind the construction crews that, hey, we're expecting you to take this debris away. It's not something that the city regularly does anymore, at least.
I know a number of people, though, that are doing their own work, and they're not hiring contractors, and they don't have the wherewithal to do that. So, I mean, that's possibly some of the reason you're seeing some of that at the street. I have another question. And this is just subjective, but the amount of complaints we've gotten in just the last 2 months has really skyrocketed. The city's been getting them, and as individual council members, we've been getting hit up. And some of them have to do with missed days. Just the truck didn't come by that day. We're having other things where, and I know one guy that they wouldn't pick up his trash. He had, the landscaping debris, and your drivers told him that he had to have them in clear plastic bags, which, he was not unaware that was even a rule. And there seems to be more instances of just, carelessness. I've found my trash cans in the middle of the street several times in the last month or two, and it's not weather that's blowing them there. In fact, I watched your guys one day just drop them off in the middle of the lane and keep going. So, do you have something going on internally as well? Is what I guess I'm asking that question.
Internally, no. We have made a change with one of our drivers who was a consistent driver in Friendswood, one of the 4. That is the only change that we have made, and that was because of service issues. We had to terminate a driver. That was recently. In fact, that was last week. But other than that, we've had no other changes. I can say that there's no excuse for not picking up bags, regardless of clear. You know what green waste is, even if it's in a bag, it's puffy. You can tell. So we'll make sure and get in front of the drivers. And as far as cans being set out in the middle of the road, it's quite embarrassing to hear that. So we will address that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rocky's gotten some of these complaints. I've actually not. Garbage pickup's one of these things I really haven't had any complaints about at all. So I think everybody was real happy with the service we were getting. And it looks like, okay, I see what you're talking about with the construction debris hanging out there. Looks to me like a real opportunity for some enterprising young man, 16 or 17 years old, with a pickup truck to make a little bit of money. But, okay.
So we have come up with a number of suggestions and plans that we put in place. Like I discussed before, the 2-bag limit. In March, I did meet with the city manager's office to discuss going through on Saturday to make one last final construction pickup. That was completed this last Saturday, and I can say that if, from the pictures on Friday, I mean, there's still quite a bit of storm debris out there. Suggestions that in the city of Alvin, we've got the municipal contract. They came to us, a very similar situation. I was asked to come, and they asked for suggestions, and I told them they wanted to help their residents, and they asked, what can we do to help you guys? And I said, hey, we've got a grapple truck that I can rent from Houston. And if the city would, at a rate of $350 per home, we would pick up. And the way it was administered was Public Works went out and placed door hangers on each of those residents that had debris out in the front yard. And then they gave us a copy of that address, and we went and picked up. It was 27 homes in the city of Alvin, which comes up to about $10,000 is what the city paid. Now, if I were to compare, I would say you'd probably see double that in Friendswood. But again, that's up to the city. Another suggestion is, we just communicate with the residents that there is an option of roll-off containers. They can use 20, 30-yard, 40-yard roll-offs. It is an open market. They don't have to use Waste Connections, but they can. These are just, suggestions, short-term. These are our roll-off containers. Again, this is an open market, so the residents can use whichever company they choose. Long-term suggestion that we have, and this is probably another complete, total different meeting. As you know, as I discussed earlier, we do rear load service here with helpers on the back of trucks. Automated service. This is something that a number of municipalities, a number of cities are looking at going into. Basically, there's a number of pros and cons to automated. The pros it keeps the city much neater. You don't have trash all over the front yard where animals, pests can get to it. It's much safer for us. We don't have that liability of workers' comp injuries, which a lot of these muscle injuries, they could be upwards of $100,000 for each workers' comp. This is the city of Angleton, which just recently in January went automated. Cons is that the residents will only be able to use carts that Waste Connections provide, and only household trash inside the container will be picked up. Are there any other questions?
Are you guys, I'm speaking to Mo, are you guys going to come back with a suggestion on some of these ideas?
We'd be happy to, whether that's a one-time fee that the city covers. If you're talking 27 homes in Alvin, realistically, we've had a number of more homes in Friendswood impacted, so the figure of 10,000 is on the low end, very low end.
Am I right? But I mean, the debris hauling should be covered by these folks' insurance.
A number of folks did not have insurance, and the debris hauling, well, let me back up. It should be covered by their insurance. That is correct. We also picked up debris through November with sporadic pickup with Crowder Golf post-November all the way through early January.
Correct.
Even with that pickup, we're still seeing a number of folks putting out construction debris and storm debris.
And I understand the construction debris. Some people, it took a long time to get a decent contractor in, and that, I mean, I've got neighbors that have that problem.
Correct.
But I'm not seeing them stacking the construction debris up out at the street. I think the contractors are hauling it off as part of,
The ones that don't have contractors. as,
again, and
Mayor Pro
Steve
Tem
pointed to
indicated.
that, but that possibility. So what we're really looking at is this one group of people that chose to do the work themselves and didn't have insurance.
And if you would like, we can definitely direct those to the toll-free number that Abel was referencing, or we can look at possibly increasing rates for service to cover this.
I'm not going to support that. Look, I appreciate the fact that you guys agreed to pick up more than normal, and I think you guys have really done a nice job in trying to help us out with the problem. I really appreciate it.
Councilman Foreman?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Moreno, for coming in. In general, since I've been on council, Waste Connections has been a great contractor for us. Have always done a great job. We appreciate you guys. And despite the fact that maybe there have been a few hiccups recently that sounds like you are ironing out, we do thank you for servicing our community, and especially for going above and beyond like you did during the storm. And anytime we have an event in the city and we ask for a little bit of extra help from you guys, you're willing to do that too. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks too. Y'all have always done a great job for our city, and I know it's been tough. It's been tough on our citizens. It's been tough on our staff. It's been tough on you, and we just have to work our way through it as best we can.
I'd personally like to see you guys bring something back to us, because there's some streets where it looks really bad still. And it's discouraging. I think it's probably discouraging to the residents. It's not on you guys, it's just an artifact. And I personally would like to see that we have something presented to us. Now, we can decide whether we're gonna pay for it and how we're gonna pay for it, but I'd like to see that we kind of got ahead of this and got some of these neighborhoods cleaned up, and looking better, as people go about the business of, fixing their homes or deciding what they're going to do to them. So I'd like to see some thoughts that the city come back to us.
We will.
I have one comment. I noticed in our neighborhood that there were these big orange bags, and it was people who were redoing in their home, and the name fails me, I can't recall. Super sacks? But they were designed specifically for people to put all their construction debris in. And then I guess there's a run that comes through periodically and grabs all that. Can we make sure that people know that is aware?
We can do this. It would be similar to a roll-off that Abel was referencing. Some waste providers have non-steel containers, or those bags.
They're
that are heavy
bags.
duty to pick up and have the equipment to pick them
I mean,
up.
they're like 4x4. They're huge.
Do y'all have that capability?
Yeah, we do. We've
I can't-
got, there's several different ways. We have roll-off containers. We've got plastic containers smaller that we can put out, a little bit bigger than what you would see a dumpster behind a church or whatever. I mean, we've got, we can use rail cars. I mean, there's,
I'm just thinking
number
more
of
for
options.
residents, especially those who are trying to do their reconstruction on their own, and that just seemed like a nice, viable solution. And then I would like to echo what the other council members have said. Anytime we've had a special event here in town, y'all have been very helpful, and we appreciate your support. And obviously through disasters, we really appreciate your support.
thank you. Thank you so much. And to all the employees, I see the employees every morning. I can tell you, we're not coming here today, complaining, or we bring these numbers with a sense of pride in what we've been able to do. It's been a lot of hard work, but a number of our drivers, specifically the ones that service, Friendswood, are from Friendswood or from a neighboring area. So there's a lot of pride that goes into what we do every day. Thank you for listening.
We'll bring back some options to council to look at, maybe an a la carte approach or something.
Okay, capital projects update, Patrick?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. So this is the April 2nd version of the capital projects update. I'm going to go over the projects we have out there and also a couple projects that we have on later on in the docket. I'll go in more detail here. And if you have further questions later when we have the individual item, feel free to call me up and ask those questions at that time too. The first one is Old City Park, which is one of those projects that we have on later. We had talked through several different iterations of meetings on how the project is being designed and has come in. It does have the dog park area up here. It has 1,650 linear feet of walking path, 5-foot walking path that connects Stevenson Park, which the previous project ended about right here, and we would be connecting to the two. It would also connect to a future pavilion and restroom area, which would be in this vicinity. As far as the master plan goes for this project, the bids that came out, they were a little bit higher, or they were a little bit more expensive than what our budget allows. So one of the things that we've done to kind of rein everything in and bring it within budget is we'll have the infrastructure in there for a future phase. But what we do plan on doing is reducing the actual parking space area by roughly half. So previously we had 88 parking spaces out there. We would reduce that number to 44. However, the storm sewer system will be able to be adapted. And so the majority of the infrastructure would be in there. The water line is actually currently being installed by city forces and would be the
Patrick?
full water line. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
By reducing the number of parking spaces, what kind of dollars we save by doing that?
Over 100,000.
And what was the total cost of this project? Remind me again, please.
The total cost that we bid out, I want to say it's a little bit over 400.
Okay.
So what our budget constraints that we were looking at, we're looking at twofold in that we have a restroom and pavilion, like I said, for over here. We're looking at a dollar cost for that at right at 300,000. So we have essentially 600,000 in funds to be able to make both things work. So that's why we chose to reduce the amount of parking, being that could easily be added at a later date, and still be able to have the amenities that we want out there, still be able to have a fully functional walking trail that goes around everything that we're going to have out there, and the restroom and the pavilion.
Because every time we have an event at Stevenson, parking is always an issue.
Yes, ma'am. And one of the things we would end up doing is we would leave this would be a grassy area, and we'd still be able to park on the grass. We wouldn't make it so that you couldn't park on it. However, at some of the events, it is raining, and although it's grass, it can get wet. But we would have the ability to park more. It's just as far as the paved area, it would actually house the 44 spaces.
And this trail that we're constructing, is it going to tie into the trail that's already existing in Stevenson Park?
Yes, ma'am. So the trail goes and it comes up by that house that we purchased a few years ago, and it stops basically right in here, and we would pick up right at that same point and continue on.
So it's a $600,000 project, and the restrooms and what have you are $300,
Yes, ma'am.
and the parking is $200. So the trail's around 100.
Probably a little bit less on the trails. I can look at the bid tab. I have that here, but I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay, just rough order of magnitude.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Would you consider bringing that 100,000 back when we go through the budgeting cycle? For 19?
For 19, for, as a decision package?
Yeah, yeah.
We very easily could do that. However, we have the contractor out there now. When a contractor leaves, you are gonna end up paying for mobilization, and there are gonna be additional costs that you would end up having by not doing it at this current time.
The city can also look at putting in some gravel or something with our own forces after the fact to provide some more semi-permanent solution for the overflow parking that's not paving. And also, Patrick didn't point out, but there is an entrance road component to this project that adds quite a bit of cost. It's not just the parking lot, but the roadway from Briar Meadow to the parking lot.
So that will be an agenda item that comes up later, and if you think of additional questions and want to ask me as that agenda item comes up, feel free to do so. These are pictures of the work that's going on right now. Like I said, the city forces are actually installing the water line and the sewer lines. These are right near where couple of the manholes were installed. Some of the water line pipe that's, at this point, possibly some of that's already been installed. These pictures were taken early last week. The next project we have is Blackhawk Boulevard. Blackhawk Boulevard was designed for the entire portion from Friendswood Link Boulevard all the way to 2351. At the time that we were under design, and even when we came to council, we talked about how the budget numbers for the entire project are a little bit greater than what we have allocated. So what we did is we went out for bids, and when we went out for bids, we also included some alternates. Of the alternates, we included increasing the length of it. We went from Friendswood Link Road to Cedar Gully. We included the alternate number 1 for Cedar Gully to Edenvale. The second alternative was adding a sidewalk. We have a sidewalk on the west side of the road, but adding a sidewalk on the east side of the road, and then adding a sidewalk for the alternate 1 portion from Cedar Gully to Edenvale, and then a fourth alternate to increase the thickness on the concrete from 6 inches to 8 inches. To kind of give an order of magnitude, what I've done is I've shown on here, this is Friendswood Link Road. The base bid went to Cedar Gully, which is right here. I'm proposing that we accept the bids to get us to Edenvale, which that would complete, in essence, 47% of the overall project. The remaining portion, Edenvale to 2351, and on the south side, this is Thursa Lane back to 528, would be the total length. So that the overall length is roughly 8,220 feet. One of the things that we've included on the agenda item is to include some of the sales tax money. The project itself, including the alternates, alternate 1, alternate 2, and alternate 3, comes in at roughly $4.6 million. Budgeted for this project, we have $4.7 million remaining. So we're within budget with what I have highlighted in yellow right here. One of the things we've looked at is using some of the sales tax monies that's been collected for the last year and a half or so, and potentially coming before you at a later date to do a change order. So as part of the agenda item, we actually have appropriated, we're asking to appropriate funds up to the 25% max that we're allowed to by law to increase contract by. One of the things I'm not asking to do that right now is because we need to see how construction goes. Seeing that there's 3 engineers up here, a contractor, and also someone who's very well versed with construction, we want to make sure there's not hidden things that we didn't see. And by the time we'll be starting at Cedar Gully, and we'll be working our way back towards Friendswood Link. As we get pretty close to Friendswood Link, we'll know with a good certainty, not an absolute, but a good certainty, what change orders we would have had. One of the pitfalls that is out there is where we plan on using the existing storm sewer and then adding for the capacity that's needed a secondary line. We haven't received many problems on the existing line. As part of this bid, it is to clean and televise it. We do have supplemental items for spot repairs, and that's within the $4.6 million number. But if by chance it's considerably worse than what we anticipated, we may have to remove larger sections. That would eat down on some of the available funds. But like I said, by starting at Cedar Gully and working our way back towards Friendswood Link, by the time we get close to Friendswood Link, we'll know a lot of those variables and be able to say what we would like to do and to come before council is to go farther. The two locations that I would like, the location I'd like to get to is Encino Drive. Encino Drive is right here. That would, in essence, take care of, with the other portions done, approximately 60% of the project. If by chance some of the items we're not able to have available to us and we have to go shorter, then we get to Pennystone Way, which would in essence get us to 56% of the project done. But those are a couple of the variables that we're looking at and making this project work together.
Patrick, we paid somebody a lot of money to do a street survey.
Yes, sir.
Did they, because I know personally that the half closest to 2351 is a lot older than the portion you're replacing. Are they about in the same condition, or did that survey find one of them worse? Or
I'll discuss that later in the presentation. But in essence, we haven't received the final report from IMS yet. I anticipate receiving that at the end of this week, and we already have a meeting scheduled with them on the 17th of April to go over the comprehensive study. But to be able to say which side's worse or which side's better, we don't necessarily have that data. When I was looking at it to determine which side do we start on, you're right that it possibly is worse on one side than it is the other. But for continuity, because we finished from Friendswood Link going towards FM 528, that's why I chose as a base bid to go from Cedar Gully, which is our outfall for our storm sewer, back towards Friendswood Link.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
When we were doing the 2013 bond, we had estimated what the whole Blackhawk was going to cost, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
How could we be that badly off?
That's quite a few years.
That was, Patrick wasn't with the city of Friendswood at that time.
I'm
so
not
I'd be
blaming
happy
us.
to
I'm
get
just
up that.
curious.
Well, the city of Friendswood staff presented to the various bond advisory groups that evaluated streets, facilities, parks, and others, and they had determined that there's a threshold for how much dollars we can go out for projects. We listed projects well in essence of the dollar amount that was on the ballot. That's not unique to Friendswood. We had done that in prior bond elections. We had hoped at that time that we can tackle the Blackhawk Boulevard for roughly $6 million, but that's also figures that were developed in late 2012, early 2013. We're now sitting in the middle of 2018, actually going out for construction. So in short, it was a guesstimate, as well as the fact that there was a limitation with how much dollars we were going to issue for streets.
As we talk,
Councilman Gustafson.
I'd like to point out that when that bond issue was passed and we were deciding on a schedule for these projects, I advocated heavily for the shortest possible time frame to avoid exactly this. So, and I wasn't successful in advocating for it.
Although I won't argue with Councilmember Gustafson, but staff has achieved an incredible pace at all these. And I know you're not meaning.
No, they've done a magnificent job, and they've shortened what we agreed to do.
Yep.
They've done I can't argue with it. But I wanted to give them all the resources in the world to condense it even further. With what we gave them to do, they far exceeded even my expectations, so.
Thank you, I recall that.
On to our next project, Lift Station 23. Not much to report on this one. However, I did receive the report from our consultant who went down into the wet well and looked at the concrete structure. And so I received that report today. It is favorable in that we can rehab it. So we'll be scheduling a meeting with our consultant to move forward on this. Not much more on Lift Station 23, being that I just received the report. Our TxDOT items, we are still working through them. One in particular is our item number 2 is the 518 and Dunbar Estates traffic signal. We are still working to get all of the data and to find out if there's a way to make that work. We were looking at, or are looking at, if we have the light at Winding Road, and the next light up is at FM 2351. If by adding a light at Dunbar Estates, if that would actually help the traffic at 2351, being that the actual number of vehicles both going straight and turning does not justify adding a signal there at Dunbar Estates.
Do we have a flashing signal there?
We do have a flashing signal.
We do?
Yes.
Okay.
The remaining 3 items are something that I am having continued dialogue with the maintenance engineer for TxDOT, but I don't necessarily have anything new to report for today. As we get closer to the end, on our city items, we have our Mandel Bridge. It's open. The work done by Gulf Coast Water Authority, very good. It's a very good-looking bridge, good-looking approach. I'd say that was an excellent decision for pennies on the dollar for what we would have had to do it if we did it all on our own. So thank you to Gulf Coast Water Authority. Another project that we actually are doing in-house is a sidewalk from the activity center up to 518 so that one could walk across. If you were at the activity center and wanted to go to the library, you'd be able to get the majority of the way there today. They are pretty close to the open lot. They're actually clearing a portion of that today, and weather pending will be done shortly on adding the sidewalk all the way up. The other item I didn't mention, I kind of mentioned before when Councilman Hill asked about the pavement management study, is we are getting that, and that we should have the report this coming Friday, and we do have a face-to-face meeting on the 17th of April.
Yeah, Patrick, thanks for working that sidewalk into your plans there between the activity center and the library. You know, a lot of seniors were making that walk down the street with walkers and all kinds of other things, and taking their lives in their hands, probably getting across 518 there. And just a curiosity, I know that TxDOT's signal box was right in the middle of where the sidewalk probably needed to go. Did you have to work something out with Stefano on a
We have talked with the landowner, and he's okay with us encroaching on him,
right,
on his property in order to do that.
Well, thanks to Steve Carbonari then for stepping up and letting us do that, because otherwise we would have had a little bit of a barricade there with that TxDOT light signal box right there and where the sidewalk should be.
Very much so, Councilman. The last item I have is our Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District. This is their Trib 2 project. So this picture is taken from one of the backyards on Falling Leaf. This picture is taken a little bit inside the project off of Spreading Oaks, looking back towards that same outfall. This was taken on Friday, and also this is from the area also at Spreading Oaks going towards Shadow Bend. So with some dry weather, they are able to move at a pretty decent pace. With wet weather, they don't move that fast at all. So if there's not any other questions, one thing the folks at Public Works would like to say is thank you, Mr. Rucker, for all of your service. I know.
Okay, next item is the Stevenson Park security cameras. James, are you going to present that?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to talk to you tonight about our security measures for Stevenson Park, in particular Shadwell. From our last conversation we had when we workshopped, staff has been diligently working with several vendors trying to get a scope to determine the best way to achieve the security over at the park. And as you can recall, meeting with several vendors, you'll get several different types of approaches to achieve the solution that we're looking for. The ranges from a dollar amount of about $50,000 all the way up to several hundred thousands of dollars to get this done. On the cheaper end, you can do something by using a mesh network system, kind of a cellular and antennas that would bring the signal back to City Hall, or you can go to the more expensive measures by doing a hardwired solution. Staff has been working with the IT department, and it's been decided that the best way to go to resolve this situation is to go through a hardwired solution. So what we'd like to do is, if giving your permission, is to spend a little bit more time involved in this situation, trying to get the best solution. We'd like to maybe bring in a consultant, a security consultant, and have them help us develop some specs, and then be able to create specifications that would be something that we can take out and go out for an RFP and be able to get the best solution possible. Meanwhile, while we're doing that, we'd like to tonight introduce you to a system that we could use in a temporary solution that could be used for multiple applications, not just in the park, but it can also be used for securing our construction sites. For example, at O City Park, we're doing our in-house construction there, and we had some vandalism on some of the rental equipment. If we had this type of security solution in place, we could have possibly been able to determine the culprits of who was doing that vandalism and be able to prosecute them accordingly. You can also use this type of solution for special events, i.e. 4th of July, or big events that are happening in the city. A lot of law enforcement agencies are now moving towards this, FBI and other big-time security solutions. So if you take a look at what you see on the camera here, it's called a long deployment surveillance trailer. And what this is, you can deploy a 25-foot electric telescoping mast. It also comes with a 90-watt battery pack and a 960-watt solar panel. So this solution is all self-contained and can be utilized to not only be self-contained power-wise with backup batteries, but also a cellular solution. It also has a DOT-approved lighting package, which means this solution can be put out on the street. It has the blinkers. It has the different things, so when we're moving it from one location to another, we can definitely be following the DOT requirements. It also has anti-theft measures. You're able to lock the unit when it's in place by locking the wheels, when it's stored, and when it's doing the surveillance. And it also has locking compartments that we can store different things inside there, i.e. cones or any traffic measures. The next slide will show a PTZ, which is a pan, tilt, zoom network camera. This camera is used to be able to record long-distance events. Along with that, it has an infrared illumination, which allows you to be able to take pictures and capture images in a dark, low-light setting. So that's something that we think would be very useful, particularly in the park where we have low lighting. The next slide shows a bullet network camera. With this camera here, it allows you to do people counting and heat mapping functions. So it'll be able to store the different counts of people as it goes by and captures that image, and that could be used for later data. It could also be used for commercial. If you wanted to put this system downtown and be able to count the number of people that are going to different events or going to different shops, you can also be able to track that and store that information in there. And it also has tracking capabilities for daily, weekly, monthly, and year of flow for use. The next slide is a Plate Smart Camera Connection software. And what this does, and it's very similar to what's in the police cars, it's able to capture vehicle information, i.e. the plate, state jurisdiction, the make of a vehicle, and it also stores inside the database so that you can go back and look at historical viewing of the plates and cameras of the cars that it's taking pictures of. And then it also does an alert mechanism. So i.e. if there was a car that was stolen, it was in the database, it will give an alert letting you know that it has just captured a picture or a photo of that particular vehicle. And it also has real-time information. The next slide is our onboard network video recorder. And this is a rugged laptop that's installed inside the system that allows you to be able to do remote monitoring. Someone can control that from either City Hall and the IT staff department or i.e. from dispatch. And then that software is a managing software that allows you to be able to look at different applications and analytics and be able to determine and map them the way that you would like. The next slide is a Cradle Point router. This router here is a rugged network solution that's designed for mission-critical connectivity, which means it's able to withstand different weather conditions, shock absorbing, and it's engineered like I said, against extreme temperatures and weather conditions. The next slide is a gasoline-powered generator. So this system can be equipped with a generator for additional backup power. It's a very quiet generator for its size. It has easy maintenance, and it has an enclosed muffler and a low fuel consumption. And this one here, the one that's shown here, is a 14-gallon tank. And then the next slide is I think we skipped a slide. That's it. Okay, so the system also has a two-way audio system, which means that you can remotely communicate to and from the system. So, for example, I gave the example of when it was stored at a construction site at Old City Park. If we saw some kids getting ready to tamper with equipment, or i.e. the machine itself, you could actually send a message that says, "I see you," back away from the system. So it's a very cool monitoring system. You can also have pre-recorded messages on it as well. And then the last notable feature about this is that it has a red and blue police light, LED lighting. So it has the strobes and it can flash when it needs to let folks know that it is being monitored. This whole system can be designed for whatever we want, pick and choose different items and pricing. The one that's displayed on here tonight comes with also on-site training, 1-year maintenance and software, and the total price is $71,870.80. Again, like I said, there's another system that we could lower the price a little bit, but if you're going to do this, it has all the bells and whistles that's needed for not only securing Shadwell, but it can also be relocated to other areas in the city. If we have a situation similar to the event where we had the lawn equipment being stolen, it could have been moved to that subdivision and be able to track and locate those individuals. So it's a very unique piece of equipment. A lot of the cities are using it and moving towards this, and this would help us in the stopgap until we're able to get that long-term solution for hardwiring from Shadwell back to City Hall.
Great. So this is not necessarily a stopgap. This is something that we plan to use temporarily until we get the hardwired systems.
Right, and then.
But it's not something that we should lease for that short amount of time, because you're sort of telling us this is a good piece of equipment to have for the long term. So
long term,
it is
yes.
worth it to us. You're telling us to go ahead and buy this piece of equipment and keep it for other events and where we need it.
Correct. That is correct.
That's what I thought.
curious, what kind of, you said you could point it on Shadwell and point it back towards City Hall, so you could see all of Stevenson Park with just one piece of equipment?
It depends on the number of cameras that you install on it. And again, that price will vary because you can tailor it to suit your particular needs. But you can have multiple cameras on it. It would be 25 feet up in the air, and it would be able to capture Shadwell and other areas inside
So
Stevenson
this
Park as
price
well.
we're looking at here, almost 72,000, how many cameras is that? What kind of range are we talking about?
This one has the bullet camera, and it also has the PTZ pan-tilt zoom network camera.
So what kind of a range are we looking at?
Well, it depends on how far you. I'm not sure the exact range on that, but I can certainly reach out to the vendor and find
I
out.
mean, if
But
you had it on the ancillary parking over there off of Shadwell, and you're pointing it back towards City Hall, how much of Stevenson Park are you gonna be able to see? Do we know that? Or any position you want to choose? I'm just curious, how wide a range are we gonna be covering with it?
I think that all depends on what range we want to cover. And from that, we give those information to the vendor, and then he'll be able to provide or scope out the camera for that particular size. So it all depends on what you're looking for.
Okay.
What about the trees? It can't see through trees, can it?
And that's part of the problem when I mentioned about the mesh network earlier, that, with the trees, it's just very difficult for us to do a, cellular type connectivity solution. So that's why everything has to be hardwired from
How long
Shadwell,
would it
from the
take you to
cameras
get the
back to
hardwire
city.
system in?
I'm sorry?
How long would it take to get the park hardwired?
It's not just how long it would take, it's the cost associated with it. And like I said, it could be a couple $100,000 to get this done.
Well, this is a lot, this is almost half of it. I don't know. I don't know if it's cooked up, all it's cooked up to be, but that's,
So let me either help James or confuse you. The answer to your question is that this camera will be, have a very localized focus. So as far as having a solution that's going to give us every square inch to include, through the tree line, that would be a very expensive endeavor. So what this will do is cover hot spots. And right now, Shadwell is a hot spot. So we know that that's where the vehicle burglaries have occurred. And then, of course, it was over there by the tennis courts last year that we had the shooting incident. So this will give us localized coverage, and not all the coverage for an event like the 4th of July parade or, the fireworks at Centennial. But it does give us a capability that we don't have right now. And, it's limited, but this right now, just as far as covering some areas that we think need to be covered, and then to be able to go ahead and move it around in case we have another problem someplace else, that's, it's just kind of an interim measure. Leasing it is definitely an option.
I thought this would be better as a police department item than a parks department item.
Well,
Will your
I mean-
people be manning it, or? Looking at the
We're
pictures?
obviously going to be heavily involved in it. And just as far as, the security goes, is, throughout the facilities and, throughout, the parks, IT is kind of taking the lead in doing the technical analysis. And as far as the operational deployment, we've been involved with the working group that's put together, this particular proposal.
Is there any way we could use our,
But we have no problem being the lead department if that's what you want us to go
well,
ahead and do.
you got people 24 hours a day.
Oh, yeah,
That's what
I mean,
if
there's
you're
going to
catch
be,
somebody, you need to have somebody.
when we get deployed, whatever it is that the council decides that they want us to deploy, and, and again, it'll be based on recommendations and it'll be based on cost effectiveness. That's going to be monitored down. If it's real time, it'll be monitored in the PD.
One last question. Is there any way we can use the tax money from our, whatever tax we have that Jeff buys all of his video equipment with?
If I had my way, I'd be funding a lot of stuff with that, but
PEG funds.
that lady over there,
You got double.
But I think that's a brilliant idea, Mr. Hill.
Assume the answer is no.
You got my vote.
The PEG funds is what you're talking about, and there's a legal test we have to meet, and it has to be for the betterment of the PEG access channel capital facility. So just security purposes would be hard to justify, but if we could be I don't want to use that word. I mean,
Creative.
if we can determine other ways to use it that could better our facilities that we use, the cameras, the special events, then we could. But based on what I've heard, I think it could be just maybe a small percentage because most of what I've heard sounds strictly security.
We could broadcast these guys.
Yes. That's right. That'd be a deterrent right there.
I might have to go out again on light duty.
And Jim, it looks like the Mars rover, so looks cool.
I've seen them before. They use them in
A
subdivisions.
lot cheaper.
And they're not very effective.
You know, I think this is an interesting idea. I have this part of me that feels it's almost Big Brother-ish. So, I mean, I would say that, like, for example, using it to count people at events, we don't need to do that. I would be very resistant to it being used for any kind of traffic control, for example. You know, I don't want to get somebody gets an automated ticket or something off this machine.
No.
And,
That's not even part of the discussion. It's
Okay.
not even part of the discussion.
Well, I'm just saying that I think there's valid uses of it and there's not valid uses of it.
Right. So, I mean, from a community education standpoint, is there opportunity for that? The answer to that question is yes. Is there application for security purposes and its validity there? The answer to that question is yes. But for any type of traffic enforcement, you know, the PD's never brought that to you before. That was a nasty endeavor, and there's been a lot of communities that have gotten spanked, and you know, there's been you know, citizen uprisings over it, and we never brought any of that to you, you know, because we knew that it was a bad deal.
So you support this? The police department does?
I am supportive of making sure we've got video surveillance where we need it. There's a need right now in Stevenson Park, and once we go ahead and get something that's more permanent in place, and again, to your question, I think we have to go ahead and target those locations where we know we can get the information that we need to get. And that's going to be a parking lot, or that's going to be at, you know, the gazebo, or that will go ahead and be by the swimming pool. We're going to have to pick and choose the areas that we're going to focus on. Otherwise, it's cost prohibitive to do it. But is there a need for something like this for right now? The answer to that question is yes. I mean,
Does it serve as a deterrent simply that you
I
have
guarantee if
it?
you've got that thing sitting over there in Stevenson Park, and somebody who doesn't even know that they're in Friendswood pulls in there to Stevenson Park, they'll know what that is. So the answer to the deterrent piece is yes. I mean, something like that may need to be deployed over in Captain's Corner, you know, where they had the burglary this last weekend.
Carl?
I'd point out the music festival, for instance, would have been a good instance, a place to have it. I wasn't going to speak to it. On the one hand, I agree with you. There is kind of a big brotherish component to it. But I live in a neighborhood where all the entrances and exits have cameras. And sadly, I think it was Saturday.
Yes, sir.
The little boy
Correct.
was hit on the bicycle and took off. And well, ultimately, the guy did call it in, and somebody did track the guy down. He did make one foolish turn right through the forest of Friendswood, and I believe you've got him on tape doing it. There was another instance. I'm just going to spout off a couple, Bob, but there's been, I really can't remember all of them. There were some burglaries in the neighborhood. You guys got the license plate numbers. They got picked up like in Florida or Mississippi.
Louisiana, I believe.
Yeah, it was somewhere else. I mean, quite a ways from here. So we've not had any instances. It's a real pain for even me to get a camera. I mean, we have to request them, even a resident has to request it through the police department. So I guess I've just seen too many instances where it was a good thing we had them. And I've not really come across any complaints where we didn't have them.
You know, you did raise a good question on the Big Brother thing, and I know that that's, you know, been one of Councilmember Scott's big concerns.
Yeah, I'm channeling.
Yeah, no, I think you're representing his interests, and you're doing it well, by the way. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, the protocols that they have in place is not so, in the forest, is not so that people can go ahead and get information on what their neighbor's doing. So, I mean, we don't want Big Brother watching, and we don't need to be where New York City is, and we don't need to be where the city of Boston is, or a lot of the major metropolitan areas where you can't go ahead and walk, you know, a city block without there being a video record of virtually everybody's movement. We're not advocating for anything like that, but we do have facilities. City facilities need to have, you know, better video surveillance coverage in them than they do right now. And I'm talking buildings. I'm not talking parks. I'm talking buildings.
So, did you guys get I think what you're hearing is we'd like to have a proposal brought back to us.
I just, all it's going to take is one kid getting snatched out of there, and we're going to wish we'd done it. So
if you guys got enough information to go on?
Yes, sir, we have adequate direction.
Okay. Chief, while you're up here, since it was brought up, if you don't mind, can you give us all an update on that, that
Sure.
incident with that boy that
Yeah,
got
there
injured?
was, I believe there was information that we released earlier in the day, but for those who haven't seen the information go out, you know, the child appears, at least according to the mother's assessment, to be doing well, given the circumstances that he's been through. And, I mean, I can't make any, you know, prognosis of a full recovery, but he's not in a life-threatening situation right now. I mean, he's been stabilized, and he's got a long road to recovery. So we were fortunate, at least in that. Typically, you know, the situations along the farm-to-market routes, you know, just given the rate of speed and what have you, whenever there's a vehicle-to-vehicle accident, there's extensive extensive property damage to the vehicles. But, you know, the situation with pedestrians, you know, unfortunately, there's usually catastrophic injuries. And in this particular case, you know, it looked worse than it was initially, and they did a great job at the hospital getting his situation stabilized.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 5D, the Galveston County Bond Project.
Hello again, Mayor and Council, or Mayor Pro Tem and Council. You may recall last month we had a discussion with regard to the Galveston County Bond Program. In November of 2017, the county held a bond election with 4 propositions on there. As it pertains to Friendswood, it was for transportation improvements. We discussed last month the proposal of constructing Friendswood Lakes Boulevard as a 4-lane facility, basically where it dead ends currently just south of 528 all the way to our West Ranch connection. Council had asked last month that we go back and visit with the property owners along which this route will abut and discuss options in which they may be willing to participate with the city, Galveston County, and the property owners to get a solution that's beneficial to all and gets us moving forward in the right direction. As a sidebar comment, another comment that was mentioned last month is to look at the impact of traffic that this roadway will have in the area. Will it benefit in terms of providing alternative routes, or will it have an impact negatively on that? We have commissioned with a traffic engineering firm to give us an answer to that question. We don't have the data just yet, but we anticipate it within the next week or two. With respect to the partnership opportunities, the property owners, 3 of them, have stepped up and proposed to match the Galveston County's additional $1 million match in the form of 3 property owners, $333,000 apiece. They have asked for a rebate of $133,000 apiece after they develop their respective projects in some form of a development agreement. For background purposes, the county bond election was $3.57 million for the city of Friendswood. The county has offered to provide an additional $1 million if we are to match it. So if up to 4.57, which if we get the million matching will put us at roughly 5.57 million. We've had cost estimates for this project ranging roughly around 6 to 6.5 million. I did get a cost estimate today from a contractor that's willing to do it. They claim for 4.2 million, but as we just discussed with Blackhawk a few minutes ago, those are all estimates until you actually go out and design the roadway, bid it, and start construction. So with that, I'll turn it over to questions.
The landowners also did agree to give us the entire right-of-way, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Carl? Or, go ahead, Mike.
I appreciate the property owners stepping up. That is really helping us out. That was what we were looking for on the front end because, as a city, we have a relatively small amount of money that we can spend on streets each year, new streets. We figured that with this project going to cost us in the neighborhood of $6.5 million, that even with the landowners coming in to match the million, we were going to be close to $1 million short, is what we were projecting. Now this $4.2 million number is sort of new. I guess what I'm concerned about in asking the property owners asking us to rebate $400,000 back to them afterwards, that we won't have enough money to get the project done. If it comes in at $6.5 million, it sounds like we're $1 million short. The city is going to have to come up with that last $1 million to get the job done, which we probably would agree to. I think I'm not speaking for everybody, but I can't. But I think the $400,000 might be a little bit of a problem. Now, if they were willing to share in the savings, if we actually come in and this project comes in less than $6.5 million, and we end up with money saved out of the expected $1 million that we would have to put up, I think we could entertain. I would be willing to entertain sharing that savings with them in the form of a rebate. So I guess if we're in a negotiation, that's what I would suggest that we do.
I'd just like to say that I'm all about leveraging our money from the county, and if we can make our money go further with these matching funds, I would certainly be in support of that. I'll just reiterate that I'd love to see this punched on through to 2351, but I'm all about leveraging our money. As far as we can make it go, I'd like to make it go.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
What are the actual process next steps?
Assuming I have a general consensus from council, we will work with Galveston County on an interlocal agreement. The interlocal agreement will specify the scope of the project, whether we talk in 2 lanes, drainage improvements, or 4-lane boulevard and drainage improvements. It will stipulate who's responsible for what. Galveston County typically will select the engineer to design the roadway and work with the city of Friendswood in the design parameters. In this particular case, since we were discussing partnerships with private landowners, I would be more than happy to include them in on those discussions. So if there are some cost-saving measures that don't impact operability in the future for transportation and don't impact our drainage criteria, then by all means I would be for it. But that interlocal agreement would outline engineering and design responsibilities, and then construction responsibilities, as well as cost overruns should the project come in higher than what they have bond funds allocated for this. That interlocal agreement could be presented to council at the next meeting in May for execution.
So what you're saying is that you could have this agreement ready for us to vote on.
Correct.
And presumably you would have hashed out all of the issues with the landowners. And so we can greenlight this thing next month.
Correct.
Okay.
And we had asked the question, I think, about the traffic study, and I think it's good that we're getting that information. Intuitively, I think, from discussions that we've had between last month and this month, I think that the answer is going to come back that this road will actually help our traffic. Now, you can offer your opinion, Mo. I think I know what you're going to say.
Again, at first blush, I believe it will improve the flow of traffic at this region. Obviously, I don't have the data yet to support it, but I don't have any indication to say otherwise.
So what I'm saying is I don't think there's going to be a hiccup that comes back when we get the answer that says, oh, wait a minute, you're going to just make your traffic situation much worse by doing this. We don't think that's the case. So I think the plan just needs to be, hey, how do we get this road going? I think we're all in support of this road. We're just trying to make it the fairest solution for all of our taxpayers. We know the property owners are going to benefit by selling their property, so it's great that they're willing to contribute, and as well they should. But you know, we just need to figure out what the equitable solution is at the how we get this job done.
Is there a consensus to your suggestion as far as making the rebate contingent upon the final outcome of the project budget?
Well, I think that's a two-way, it's a negotiation.
Okay.
I mean, I suggested that we'd probably go have that negotiation, but whatever you come out with, let's not have that slow us down.
Okay.
And I just want to say, you know, we talked about this last month, and we elected to wait a month and see if we could work it, and we did get a better deal for Friendswood, and I really appreciate the landowners stepping up on this. So the month wait was extremely worthwhile, in my opinion. Does anybody have anything else on this? Okay. There is, let me see if I get this right here. Two items on the agenda. Oh, I'm not on, sorry. 2 items on the agenda honoring our outgoing city manager. I would like that we're going to have a reception. I'd like to see if people wouldn't mind if we had that now before it's out in the hallway. Is that where it's going to be? And then we'll go into executive session after that. So and everybody here is invited to participate, but we'll be honoring Roger, who is sitting in that chair for the last time, and has done just an unbelievably great job. So you're all invited. And let me read. Then at some point we'll go into executive session. Let me read that. Council will go into executive session, communication from the public regarding executive session topics. Council may convene an executive session in accordance to Texas Government Code pursuant to Section 551074. Personnel matters to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment of duties, discipline, and dismissal of a public officer or employee. In this case, evaluation of the city secretary with possible discussion and action related thereto in open session. And Section 551.071, consultation with the city attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation with possible discussion and action related thereto, open session, Audubert versus Zoning Board of Adjustment and Appeals and City of Friendswood, and Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property with possible discussion and action related thereto, open session. I'm going to kill Kevin for not being here. Be in the hallway. Okay, we're going to get started. We have one item we're inserting, and then we'll be starting with item number 8. Coming out of executive session, I'd like to hear a motion on a performance raise for the city secretary.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make the motion that we give our excellent city secretary, Melinda Welsh, a 3.5% pay raise.
I'd second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, now we have we've already had the reception for Mr. The city manager, Mr. Roker. So we're going to go into special recognition. Recker, excuse me. Since our names are so close to the last name, you'd think I'd get it right, right? So we've already done 9A, so we're on 9B. We'd like to introduce Josh Rogers as our new Deputy Chief of Police. Chief?
Come on up, Josh. You're a participant here. Well, first of all, I know that there's a lot of folks in the audience that have come to share this promotion ceremony with Josh and Debbie, and Josh's son, Jake, is over there with his friends right there along the wall. So I want to thank you all for coming here this evening. And especially, having you here, Debbie, is important for all the friction that I've caused in your marriage. I would like to apologize, but you'd know it wasn't sincere. Right. But anyways, moving forward, I think that the number of police officers and employees from the police department that are here, is a true testimony to Josh in his 19 years of service with the police department. So what I'd really like to do is to acknowledge them, because it's been a team effort and they have just done a great job. So with that. So just by way of background, Josh has about 21 years of police service. He doesn't have enough gray hair and doesn't have the receding hairline yet to show it, but he's got 21 years of police service, 19 of which have been with the Friendswood Police Department. Josh and I actually came on at the same time. I came in February of '99, and Josh came on a couple of months later. And so, I guess we've got a lot of history together, and, we probably both don't want all those stories told, so we won't even tell Josh stories while we're here tonight. Appreciate that. Okay, no sweat. So in that 19-year period, the city has near doubled in size. Hard to believe, but it's near doubled in size. And not only has it near doubled in size, but the police department, at the same time, with the number of sworn officers, has near doubled also. So we've had the support of the mayor, council members, to go ahead and make sure there's been smart growth, and the department was equipped with the, field equipment that it needed and the facilities that it needed to have. And, interestingly enough, every year I share in an annual report, what's gone on during the calendar year, 1 January to 31 December. And, in 1977, 40 years ago, the city's crime rate was 51 serious crimes per 1,000 of residents. And we had 9,000 residents at the time. 40 years later, in 2017, we had 371 serious crimes for a population of 40,000 people. So really what that means is that over a 20-year period, over a 40-year period, we've not only cut the crime rate, we've been able to go ahead and manage that crime rate at a reduced status. The reason that I mention that is because it's a team effort. The folks that are here, are just representative of the folks that are out there on the street or ones that couldn't be here this evening. But in everything that we've done in the police department as it relates to organized criminal activity or conducting major investigations, Josh has been at the leading edge of it. I mean, sometimes he's been the pointy end of the spear, but he has been involved in, virtually every program and held every supervisory position that we have in the police department. So, I'll just, probably highlight for the council, most notably, Josh was instrumental in getting charges filed back in December on William Reese. Now, as we all know, William Reese was a curse to this community and the surrounding communities. But there was one victim that Reese had not been charged with. So he was charged in Brazoria County in December, just before the holidays. And matter of fact, he was charged in Brazoria County for capital murder. So, I mean, all the efforts of the PD, all of the efforts of the people, some of them that really look scraggly and are undercover police officers that are in here right now. It's been a team effort, and Josh has been, instrumental in leading at the corporal level, the sergeant level, the lieutenant level, and the captain level. So I wanted to acknowledge that before we went through the promotion, the oath. So we'll close by going ahead and administering his oath, and please remain seated while I administer the oath. So Josh, if you come up front. My younger years, I could read this without having to put my glasses on. So, if you would, right over here. There's always one. That wasn't going to get any better. So if you would, I state your name. I, Josh Rogers. Do solemnly swear. Do solemnly swear. That I have not directly. That I have not directly. Or indirectly paid. Or indirectly paid. Offered. Offered. Promised to pay. Promised to pay. Contributed. Contributed. Or promised to contribute. Or promised to contribute. Any money. Any money. Or thing of value. Or thing of value. Or promised. Or promised. Public office. Public office. Or employment. Or employment. As a reward. As a reward. To secure my appointment. To secure my appointment. Or confirmation. Or confirmation. Whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be. So help me God. So help me God. I do solemnly swear. I do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully execute. That I will faithfully execute. The duties of the office. The duties of the office. Of Deputy Chief of Police. Of Deputy Chief of Police. For the city of Friendswood. For the city of Friendswood. Galveston and Harris Counties. Galveston and Harris Counties. And the state of Texas. And the state of Texas. And will do to the best of my ability. And will do to the best of my ability. Preserve. Preserve. Protect. Protect. And defend the Constitution. And defend the Constitution. And the laws of the United States. And the laws of the United States. And of this state. And of this. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations. Please be seated. Josh has a 5-minute speech.
It was actually 5 minutes. Chief said, could I cut it down to 25 seconds? So he said short and sweet. I promise you it'll be short. I don't know about sweet. But anyway, I do appreciate the chief recognizing the accomplishments, both that I've made, and also I think he pointed out very well that it's a team effort with the individuals that are here and some that could make it and could not make it. But also the support, and he acknowledged that as well, the support that we have from the rest of the city staff to include city council. None of what we do wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the support. And we know that that's not necessarily true in every city where we have that support, so we do appreciate that. You know, I've worked extremely hard over the last 20 years here, and I know this opportunity will be challenging like many of the other positions that I've had over the years. And, you know, I couldn't do that without the work and the supportive effort from many that are in the room, you know, from the police department. And I truly acknowledge that, and I hope that I do that on a daily basis with everyone that I have led over the years to try to put everything that I've accomplished, you know, onto them as well. Not only that, but my family, as Chief mentioned, you know, the friction that he's caused, you know, between my wife and she probably would say there was some there. I think it's been fine all along, but I recognize that, you know, the hours that are put in and all that doesn't necessarily come free, you know, so I try to make as much as I can at home, You know, my mom couldn't make it today. She's battling cancer, and you know, my father's taking care of him, but I owe a lot to them as well. So I'm very excited about this opportunity to work for the great department and for the great city. And that's really all I have. I hope that was under a minute. Thank you all again. Debbie. Yeah.
Jacob up here to one side. So you all might be wondering, why did we promote Josh? Well, obviously, the best person suited for the job, but could I get Deputy Chief Lozier to come up? No? Come on. So Luke is following Roger's lead. So Luke is headed for retirement in October. And so this promotion begins a orderly transition. Now, Luke's been with me for probably more time than he wants to remember. I did not cause as much friction in his marriage as I've caused in Josh's. But nevertheless, Luke has been a valued member of the team and certainly, you know, a great advisor and, you know, a great partner over the last 17 years. And how many years will you have with the department when you retire? 39. He got you beat, Roger. Yeah. So I just wanted to go ahead and acknowledge Luke. He's obviously not comfortable being up here and not looking for recognition, but he is he's a world-class police officer and, you know, a world-class individual. And I thank you for everything that you've done. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Good luck, Josh. We're on 9C. We have special recognition for Roger, our retiring city manager. Although we had a reception out there. Sally, you want to? This is from us at council.
Roger, I noticed that you said a little something about free time and doing things separately from Lisa. I'm not encouraging a lot of that. That's not good advice.
Jim Hill said a few minutes ago, he said, when do we give Roger the shaft? Jim, it's a golf club. It's not a glove.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, item 10, communication from the public. I have 3 cards, just for those that are going to speak. Who's got the, Carl, you got the? So you get 3 minutes. When you have 1 minute left, Carl will give you the yellow card, and at 3 minutes, he gives you the red card of death. We have Chris and Liz Shaw, followed by Philip Radiso, followed by Michelle Hatmaker, if you guys would line up. And Chris and Liz, you're up first.
You might have to have that card ready. No. So my name is Liz. This is my husband, Chris, and I want to thank you for hearing us tonight. We are here in support of item number 20 on your agenda, which is flood mitigation, and specific hiring a grant manager to help us and other families that have been severely affected, much of our city, severely affected by Harvey. Just our story. Chris and I evacuated via boat with our 5 children. So our oldest is 9, our youngest is 2, and our home was substantially damaged due to the flood. And with that, we have been, working since that time to secure an elevation grant so that we can prevent our home from flooding in the future. And this grant opportunity is a tremendous opportunity for us, but also for the city and many other families who were affected. So hiring a grant manager would be very much to our benefit and to the city's benefit, so that we can bring that money home to Friendswood.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
so much.
Next, we have Philip Radiso.
Council, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm here in support of number 19, the clearing and debriding of the creek, and also in number 20, hiring the flood mitigation contractor. I would ask that you, when you get to that point, you ask lots of questions of Morad, so that the public that's here tonight can get a lot of the information that's not out there at this point about desnagging the creek and everything. One of the things that you learn when you start doing your research and things is that Harris County owns the bottom of the creek. Galveston County only has the Galveston side bank. Harris County has the other bank. Both counties have to come to an agreement to get the whole thing done, and just work through that. But also, when we get to the item 20, that asks lots of questions and make Murad, he's going to do it anyway, but make him give up some of that information about hiring this contractor, how successful they are, and the whole process of people are going to see, because when you dig into it, it's a 24-month thing before it's completed if everything goes right. So I would ask that you would do that. I would also ask that we get, some citizens are here to find out about how the notifications went out on for the substantial damage list. I've got neighbors that had no clue, and were told that there were ways that they were trying to be contacted. And I know they've been there at their homes every day. They receive their mail there every day, their phone numbers. They've been to City Hall numerous times for things. So I just ask an explanation for them as to why they find out in a newspaper article about it, but also why the other cities find it was all right to release that information without a problem. And then we had to, we pushed back and had to go to the State Attorney General's office for a ruling on that, when everybody in this town pretty much knows who flooded, knows what areas flooded. And some of the concerns I've heard has been security. And part of that security and privacy is increased police patrols. We've seen it after Allison, and we've seen it now. And the neighbors look out for each other. And trust me, we all know every noise, every dog bark, we're looking at something, because we know who's on the street and who's not. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Michelle Hatmaker.
Good evening, members of council and citizens of Friendswood. My name is Michelle Hatmaker, and I am a candidate for your Galveston County Commissioner Precinct 4. As many of you know, there will be a runoff election on May 22nd, and I am running in a race against a 20-year establishment incumbent. To give you a little bit of my background, I am a real estate broker. I have lived in this area pretty much my entire life, and actually lived in Friendswood in 1983 during Hurricane Alicia. I had just given birth to my first son, Daniel, and I remember that experience, and I remember being here during that time and everything that the community had gone through. Obviously, since then, there have been other situations, and most recently, Harvey, obviously, and our communities are reeling still from those events. I believe that it's time that Precinct 4 has a commissioner that is involved, that is active, and that represents the community to its fullest. I believe that we've had time to clear up the issues that we've had with our creeks and our flooding issues, and I believe that it's time to move forward and have a new voice for you, the community, to work towards resolution of those issues. I appreciate the time to be here. Your citizens have been absolutely amazing when we've knocked on their doors and we've introduced my campaign, and my volunteers have met many of you. Billy Enochs was an amazing candidate to campaign with, and I'm proud to say that Billy has endorsed me in this election, and I deeply appreciate that. I am also endorsed by 2 of the current county commissioners, Commissioner Joe Giusti from Precinct 2 and Daryl Apfel from Precinct 1 as well. So I look forward to meeting many more of you as we continue to knock on doors and attend events here in Friendswood, and I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to serve and work for you. I look forward to the election on May 22nd, and I'm eager to get started as your next county commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 11, communication from committees and guest special reports. Sherry Goen for Keep Friendswood Beautiful.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Goen, and I'm chairman of Keep Friendswood Beautiful. I'm here tonight to present the annual report. The slide presentation you see was created by Katie Blanchard. Katie works in the Parks and Recreation Department, and so she put that together for us. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to talk about Keep Friendswood Beautiful. We have had an incredible year. Very eventful, to say the least, as has all of Friendswood. But out of the floodwaters came a beautiful spring. And we are slowly recovering as KFB focuses on beautifying and cleaning up Friendswood. The Harvey Benefit Concert last September, sponsored by Parks and Recreation, Keep Friendswood Beautiful, the Friends of Downtown Friendswood, and Friendswood Rotary, raised $10,000 plus for Harvey victims. This concert provided a much-needed respite from cleanup chores, and over 400 people settled down in Stevenson Park for a relaxing good time. Due to Harvey, the numbers for participation and debris collection were way up at Fall Hall. The city did a phenomenal job of getting rid of major trash in the months after the flooding. Property owners were vigilant in cleaning up, and especially downtown businesses who opened back up for customers in a very short time. Volunteers, both local, state, national, came to help. We contacted Keep Texas Beautiful to help us with cleanup supplies, and they were amazed at the work that was being done in Friendswood to restore our community. The 10th annual Santa in the Park drew record numbers in 2017, with approximately 10,000 people attending. We initiated a new phone app so attendees could locate booths, view performance times, and post pictures during the event, with downloads of 200 the first hour, and then 2,100 views throughout the entire event. Social media outreach delivered notices, flyers, and information to 36,000 people through Facebook and Twitter. Numbers for Santa in the Park surpassed all other major events occurring in Friendswood in 2017. Social media presence was a big goal for KFB in 2017. The KFB Public Awareness Committee and Parks and Recreation, and specifically Katie Blanchard, made sure we were out front with posts, pictures, flyers, and announcements throughout the year. Our posts and pictures during and after Harvey provided citizens with needed information, and one post reached 4,000 people, and that was when the Marines landed in Friendswood. We keep a monthly record of social media outreach to monitor numbers for future direction of the Public Relations Committee. Numbers for social media outreach were up due to the fact that so many of our partners and community groups share our posts now. And now the dreaded medians. The medians on 2351 and 518 suffered greatly in 2017. Destroyed plants, tire ruts, busted irrigation, washed away rocks and soil took a toll on them. Cold weather for several months didn't help. No one in this community was more upset by the than the KFB board and Parks and Recreation about the damage of the medians. The 2351 medians are slowly coming back and have been cleaned up. The 518 medians will take longer. However, with the persistence and the many phone calls by James Toney and Kimberly Ramirez, TxDOT has agreed to redo the 518 medians, stating the median job from the grant award given to KFB for $210,000 was not done correctly in the beginning. So TxDOT will renovate all of the 518 medians in late August. KFB has many partners in the community, and we could not do what we do without them. They help us with donations, volunteers, and direction. They never let us down. They are extremely beneficial to keep Friendswood beautiful and foster the success we strive for. We will continue with our work with our events, projects, workshops, environmental stewardship under the direction of the Parks and Recreation Department. The Keep Friendswood Beautiful Board recognizes and appreciates the work this department does for the benefit of the community. Lastly, we'd like to thank Mayor Holland and the city council members for your support, your leadership, and yes, for the funds you send our way. We will miss you, Kevin and Jim, and we thank you for your years of service. Special thanks to you, Roger, on your retirement. Your commitment over the years to KFB has not gone unnoticed. It has been my experience in talking with the other affiliates across Texas that not all of them have the cooperation of their city manager. That has never been the case. KFB has been extremely lucky to have you. So, Murad, you have big shoes to fill. And KFB will be watching you.
Thank you, Sherry. Moving on to item 12, City Manager's Report. Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Sherry. As I have told that group, if there's a harder working bunch of volunteers, I don't know who they are, but they are a great, great group. And speaking of KFB, Spring Sparkle is here again, and she just mentioned, gave a report on Fall Hall and Spring Sparkle just a few minutes ago, but Saturday, April 14th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Centennial Park, we'll have our semi-annual city cleanup time, and residents will need, it's for residents only, it's not a general cleanup for the area. We'll need to show proof of residency to participate. Items that will be included or eligible to be accepted are green waste, appliances, furniture, miscellaneous wood, metal, and plastic, no household hazardous waste. Also, residents can donate garage sale items, such as furniture and household items and bikes, to keep Friendswood beautiful, and those proceeds will benefit the beautification of city facilities and parks. We have another exciting time at our Friendswood Public Library, and they're inviting everyone to come celebrate National Library Week with them from April 8th through the 14th. Friends of the Library have provided some giveaway things as you visit the library during that week. And Wednesday, April 11th at 7 p.m., astronaut and council member Mike Foreman will be at the Friendswood Library for an evening with an astronaut presentation. On Thursday, April 12th at 6:40 p.m., you can join them at the library for a Pancakes and Pajamas family story time. So don't get those two mixed up. And show up for the astronaut in your pajamas. I'm not sure that would work well. We have the Youth Fishing Derby coming up. Parks and Recreation is hosting this annual event Saturday, May 12th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Centennial Park for kids ages 16 and under. Over 600 pounds of adult catfish will be stocked in Centennial Park Pond, and we have to be careful so that it doesn't get fished out ahead of the event. So maybe another use for that camera system that we were just talking about. No pre-registration or fishing licenses are required. Participants are encouraged to bring their own fishing supplies, as loaner rods will be available, but they'll be limited, and there will be prizes awarded to the largest fish caught in the various age groups. It seems almost every month we're receiving recognition of some sort, and as I said last month, one of the most important I can imagine receiving is that of being a safe place to live. The website neighborhoodscout.com has named Friendswood as the safest city in the Houston area, and this was a recognition we received last year. The third safest city in Texas, and this is up from 6th last year, and the 43rd safest city in America, up from 60th in 2017. So a tremendous recognition there. Niche.com uses a slightly different criteria when ranking safest suburbs, and they've recently announced Friendswood as the 7th safest suburb in the Houston area. The city was also recently judged to be the safest city in the greater Houston area and 8th safest in the state by the National Council for Home Safety and Security. So I would tell you that you can argue with any one recognition, but when you are recognized by group after group after group, I think it states the case very well. So I applaud all of our police and public safety folks for the hard work that they do. And lastly, we have been giving Harvey updates, and I've asked Murad actually to do some of the things that you were asked to ask questions about just a little while ago. So he is going to give an update, but before he starts, I wanted to give one more piece of good news. We received a letter last week, and I'll read it very quickly. It says, as the city of Friendswood continues to recover from the devastation of Hurricane Harvey that occurred approximately 6 months ago, the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District would like to thank the City Council, City Administration, and all city employees for their tremendous efforts to assist our citizens both during and after that event. Let me stop there and just say quickly, you'll recall in the cleanup, it was very difficult getting resources here to begin with, and it was tough seeing the debris pile up and not getting the resources we wanted in town. Crowder Gulf ultimately came through and went to extraordinary efforts and helped us greatly with the debris removal. Waste Connections, as we talked earlier, has gone above and beyond and still is working in that regard. We enlisted the support of TxDOT, and they brought in trucks and they helped out. And we also met with the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District and asked for their help, and they put a truck out on the roads as well and provided that service to us. So continuing on it, their letter says, we're proud to have worked with the city in both the rescue and debris removal process. We recently received a check from the city in the amount of $46,833.02 because they were a contractor to us for our effort in removing debris from flooded homes. We realize the city suffered significant financial loss as a result of the hurricane, so consequently we are contributing an amount equal of that check to the city in order to help in your recovery process. We appreciate the cooperation and working relationship we have with the City of Friendswood, and we will continue to support the city in any area that we can. And that's signed by Joseph Anderson, the operations manager, and a $46,833.02 check was attached to that. So I want to thank the Drainage District for their contribution and their help in that regard. So Murad, thank you for, and I've recognized Murad and Glenda Faulkner in our office. They have taken an untold, it's been an untold toll on them as far as the daily calls, the visits. I can't count the number of people they have counseled and advised and helped with information related to Harvey and the recovery efforts. So, Murad.
Thank you, Roger. And that effort's not limited to just Glenn and I. Both Patrick Donner, our city engineer, as well as Brian Rowan have fielded a number of those, as have a number of other staff members. In short, we learned about approximately 2 weeks ago that we did not get our flood mitigation assistance buyout grant that we had applied for through the Texas Water Development Board. You may recall we had 44 homes that the city sought buyout funds from the feds and state, but unfortunately those homeowners are still in a state of limbo. You have an agenda item later on tonight to discuss hiring that flood mitigation grant specialist that the Shaws had alluded to. The city will work closely with that consultant on identifying grant opportunities. The one that's most pressing is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, which we will evaluate potential buyouts. We will evaluate elevation programs as well as mitigation reconstruction. With that particular grant, unlike the one we applied for in November, it's a 75% federal share, 25% local share. Unfortunately, we do not have the financial resources to cover the 25% local share, so there may be situations where the homeowner would have to step up and cover the local component. You also heard earlier tonight references made to a Galveston Daily News article related to substantial damage estimates and information. Roger has been so kind to give me a few minutes to explain what that, or the confusion behind that article. In short, shortly after Hurricane Harvey, FEMA contractors approached the city on a pilot program to do substantial damage estimates. FEMA-trained contractors went and did an exterior evaluation of the facilities or the buildings they felt were damaged during Hurricane Harvey. Their inspection and evaluation did not include going into the structure, simply a visit to the site and an exterior inspection. They submitted a list to the city along with a statement that the information is confidential and is subject to Federal Privacy Act requirements. So as such, the City of Friendswood honored that information and the confidentiality requirements and did not release the data when asked for by the local newspapers, the Daily News and the Houston Chronicle. After much going back and forth, the Attorney General has opted that the Privacy Act requirements does not apply, and so the city of Friendswood released the information with a huge caveat on it that the list itself didn't tell the whole picture. What I mean by that is FEMA's contractors did an exterior evaluation of the structure. They didn't go into the structure. They have no clue what the inside of the building looks like. The properties may or may not be substantially damaged. It goes into a variety of factors to make that determination. One, we have to get inside the structure. The homeowners have to let us inside their home. Some homeowners have gone back to their home and are continuing working on fixing it back up. Others are not. The information does not take into account adequate appraisals. They base their 50% damage threshold on appraisal district CAD information. As everyone in this room is well aware, CAD values do not reflect market values for the structures. On top of that, the determination that the structure is substantially damaged puts a homeowner in a particular situation where they may or may not have to elevate their structure before they can reoccupy it. You may recall we had this conversation about our floodplain maps and the issue with regard to the 07 versus the 1999 maps. I don't want, with the fell swoop of a pen, make a determination for every citizen in our community that was impacted by the storm based on an arbitrary decision. We have been individually counseling and working with homeowners that have contacted us and that we have reached out to on their particular situation. The article published a list of 100-plus homes that they deemed were substantially damaged. A number of those are not substantially damaged. Some that aren't on that list are substantially damaged. It depends on a case-by-case evaluation. So it was unfortunate that the list was published, namely because you've put some of our homeowners, not you, council, but the Daily News and the Chronicle are putting our homeowners at risk for financial liabilities that they may or may not be able to foot the bill for. The federal government has not stepped forward and offered any funding to assist these homeowners in disaster recovery. So we're working with them to see where they need to be and would like to be. If you don't allow an individual to reoccupy their home without elevating it, in essence, you've kicked them out of their home with nowhere else to turn. So with that, I turn it over to any questions council may have.
Murad, do you have any information on why FEMA elected not to do a buyout in Friendswood?
All I can surmise at this point, because I haven't gotten an official letter from them yet, is that our plan was too rich. And what I mean by that is the only local city, aside from the city of Houston, that got buyout dollars through the Texas Water Development Program was the city of Nassau Bay. They were seeking $1.3 million worth of federal funds. Ours was seeking $12 million of federal funds. And the pot to start was $90 million nationwide. So my assumption is that we were asking for too much.
So 90 million
Yes, sir. 90.
nationwide.
Nationwide. Now, there are other programs, as I mentioned, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program that we're evaluating right now. Although we're being told, as recently as last week, that HUD, the Housing and Urban Development arm of the federal government, has stipulated that 70% of the funds need to go towards areas that have 70% LMI, low to moderate income households, which unfortunately Friendswood does not qualify for. So there are some additional hurdles we're going to have to clear in order to start getting some disaster recovery funds heading to the city of Friendswood.
Have we shared our displeasure with the pool of money available with
we have, and we will
congressmen and senators' offices?
Yes, sir, and we will continue to do that. Okay. So I don't mean to get into a debate on this, but I've wanted this opportunity to just discuss some of the backstory that is not published in the paper.
Thanks, Mo. Have you had better luck getting in touch with some of these homeowners? As you say, it's a case-by-case discussion, and I know the city was attempting to contact these people with little or no success. So now that the article's been published, and are people helping come forward and talking to the city manager's office? And
they are, as well as our community development department and city engineer's office. But it's still going to be a case-by-case basis. We cannot go knocking door to door on everybody's home and trying to determine where they need to be. We don't have the resources from a staff perspective. And ideally, without engaging them just yet, they're not pigeonholed into a conclusion that they're not prepared to tackle.
Just a couple of things. One, so just to be summarizing, the federal government denied doing any buyouts for us after they had originally told us they would be. correct?
They had opened up a grant opportunity that we met the eligibility requirements for.
So we met the requirements, and then they said no.
Correct.
And then second, you're hearing that some of these other programs, they're earmarked for lower income neighborhoods? Is that what you're saying?
The threshold for funding to be released in those areas are going to be based upon a census information of low to moderate income designation.
Then out of the houses that you have not been able to reach, how many would you say there are that of the 100 or so that how many would you say we haven't
I
been able to reach?
don't have an exact figure off the top of my head. So, I mean, again, each story is unique. I had an individual come visit with me around 3 o'clock today, unscheduled, wanting to be bought out. They live in the Harris County side of Friendswood. The individual did not have a cell phone number, did not have an email address or any point of contact, and said he'll have to come back and visit with me later with the contact information so we can communicate. So
I guess what I'm saying is, given that it's 111 houses or whatever the number is, and some, I would presume, reasonable number of those you've reached, right?
yes, sir.
I wouldn't think that the remaining balance would be that difficult for us to send somebody around from the city to knock on the door just to see if we can reach them. Agreed or disagree? Is it?
We can look into that. I feel that we've reached everyone that needs to be reached at this time, but we'd be more than happy to provide a list to council if that's something you're interested in. Yes, sir. And then we can make that determination.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anybody, any other questions? Thank you, Mo. That was helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, number 13, discussion and possible action regarding approving appointments, reappointments to the following committee. This is the 4th of July committee, appointing Stephanie Caracosta.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Stephanie happen to be here? No? All right, all in favor? Passes, unanimous. Okay, number 14, discussion and possible action regarding the disposition of RFP 2018-02, city property, lawn mowing and maintenance services. James, and then I'll tell you what, I'll let you, if you want to do both since they're tied together, and then we'll vote them separate. That one and number 15.
Correct.
Okay.
Bid 2018-02 for mowing services for the facilities was opened on Tuesday, February 13, and there was a total of 7 bids presented at that time. Based on the criteria that was presented and the awarding selection process by the committee, staff recommends that council awards a contract to Special Touch. They were the lowest qualified bidder at the time, and we ask that you approve a contract with this company.
I'll make the motion.
All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And go on to the next one, James.
On that same day, we opened up bid 2018-03 for city buyout lots. Again, based on the criteria selection and the committee's choices, the committee recommends that mayor and council award a bid to a contract bid to Cornerstone Maintenance. They were the lowest qualified bidder at that time.
Okay, do we have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second over here. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you, James. Okay, I guess, Patrick, you're going to come up with this. Discussion and possible action regarding disposition of bid number 2018-06, construction of Blackhawk Boulevard Phase 2. Want to do it again? Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding disposition of bid number 2018-06, construction of Blackhawk Boulevard Phase 2.
So we opened bids on March 20th. Before you is a proposal to award to Jocelyn Construction, and included within that are alternates 1, 2, and 3, which, as I spoke on earlier, would be to adding from Cedar Gully up to Edenvale, and also doing sidewalks on the east side for both of those sections, which were not part of the base bid.
I'll make the motion.
Do we have any discussion? Anybody want to? Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Passes 5-0. You still up, right?
Yes, sir.
Discussion and possible action regarding disposition of bid 2018-07, construction of a parking lot at Old City Park.
So we opened bids on March 13th on that one. The lowest, most qualified bid came in at $419,000. We've been working with the contractor to negotiate a deductive change order to bring it down to $299,003. And within the appropriations, we also have material testing for the project.
Do we have a motion here?
I'll make the motion.
Does this motion, is this going to include what you guys talked about earlier, which would be making, on the part of the parking lot that isn't going to get done doing gravel? Is that included in this?
The gravel portion does not, but we can do that with, within our budget.
Can we amend the motion to make sure it gets included?
The contractor wouldn't necessarily be done. It would be done by city staff, so.
That doesn't matter to us as long as it gets done.
Correct.
I mean, if you want to make the motion that the city would do that part as well.
I'll amend my motion for us to accept this bid and for the city to do in-house the portion of the parking lot that we removed from the bid.
Who had the second?
Carl did.
Carl, you okay with that, Carl?
Second.
We
Just
need
say you
we need
second.
you to second your original second on the, all right. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding disposition of RFP 2018-08 office space leasing purchase.
Council, you want a motion first? Is there a motion first before I get started?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Council may recall that the Public Works and Parks and Recreation Facility at the end of Deepwood sustained quite a bit of damage during Hurricane Harvey. The city has been in work with the Texas Department of Emergency Management as well as FEMA since Harvey on identifying a suitable replacement, either on a temporary basis or a long-term basis. We went out for a request for proposal a few months ago and got one response back, the old Food Lion building off of Black Hawk Boulevard near 2351. The facility is roughly 37,000 square feet, and what we have before you in your agenda packet is to execute a lease agreement with the property owner with the potential to purchase it in the future. FEMA would cover 90% of the costs for the lease, presumably that would help our operations continue, which they're currently operating out of their vehicle in the activity building and a number of other makeshift facilities.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I made the motion, and Jim seconded.
Okay. So this building is 37,000 square feet?
Yes, sir.
And have you got an estimate on the engineering to renovate it for our purposes?
We could probably do it internally. When I say internally, just minimal modifications to occupy initially, in the tune of $300,000 to $400,000. Long term, though, if we're going to occupy that facility and make it permanent, it would take quite a bit more funds, probably in the terms of $3 to $4 million ultimately. That's to fully outfit the facility. Now, keep in mind, we just built a fire station that's roughly 20,000 square feet for $6 million. This facility we're looking at would be cheaper on a per unit basis than that, for both the purchase and renovation.
And you're going to move all the vehicles over there as well?
Yes, sir.
And you got plenty of parking to do that, correct?
Roughly over 100 parking spaces, yes, sir.
And we would be able to ultimately Public Works won't inhabit the whole building, right? We'd have extra space for other uses, is that correct?
Public Works and Parks, which represent roughly 60 employees out of the 200 plus that we have citywide, but yes.
So we'd put Public Works and City Parks over there?
Yes, sir.
And all their vehicles?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I haven't seen any debris out in front of that building, but I trust everything survived the flood.
Everything did amazingly
No
well in
water
that
there.
facility.
What's that?
Everything did amazingly well at that facility, including the
No
parking
water
lot.
in the building.
No, sir.
Okay, all in favor? Passes Okay, who's speaking on 19?
I am.
Okay. But you're having a long run up there, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Discussion and possible action regarding the approval of an interlocal agreement to partially fund clearing and desnagging efforts along Clear Creek within the city limits of Friendswood, Texas.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So,
Yes, go ahead.
Patrick, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'd like to do a little background on this.
please go ahead.
Originally, in '08, when the county had a bond issue, they put in $10 million towards the Mud Gully Detention Project. The city of Friendswood pledged $1 million, and the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District pledged $2 million. Well, we're starting to be able to desnag now, and the reason it's taken so long is because we have to have detention capacity in the Mud Gully project before we can start desnagging downstream, so we don't put a rise in the water downstream. And we've got 2 phases of the Mud Gully completed, which gives us the ability to start desnagging, I think, 5 reaches, which is 5 sections. The Consolidated Drainage District they have been buying some land, some right-of-ways and stuff out of their money, and ours is, we're gonna pay them to actually do the clearing, so I just wanted to clear that up.
Couldn't have said it better myself, James.
Thanks, Patrick.
Is there anything else, Patrick, or did he do it for you?
He took it all.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So the way this is written, it says that just desnagging of the Galveston County side.
Yes, sir.
So for those that are unaware, the Clear Creek, the bed of Clear Creek is owned by Harris County, and Galveston only starts at the bank on our side, on the Galveston County side. Who is responsible for clearing the Harris County side?
Harris County Flood Control is ultimately who's in charge of that aspect, and Rod and myself have both have been talking with them regarding their participation in that process.
So we should expect an agreement with them someday, and they would do that part?
It's possible, yes.
It's possible.
Historically, they have not been in favor of desnagging.
Yeah.
So that's why
And why is
Patrick's
that? And why is that?
reticent.
They, from what the best I have garnered, they showed up once and were going to do a little selective clearing, but they backed out for maybe environmental reasons and never have done another thing. And they actually don't even get the fallen trees out of the creek. Our drainage district does that. I think maybe with Harvey, they have showed a willingness maybe to do something to Clear Creek. But there again, we are, Clear Creek, to me, this is my sole opinion, to Harris County Flood Control, Clear Creek is not as big a problem as they have in other areas. It's about the best way I can put it. So I wish they would help us. Hopefully they will.
Well, even if you clear one side of the bank, it still negatively affects all sides if the creek bed isn't completely clear, correct?
But you have to start somewhere, so.
Agreed, but I just don't want to see it get, we do one side, we do a marvelous job, and it doesn't really help because the creek's still, one side still got snags in it, and there's stuff in the middle of the creek, and you got impediments in either direction. Well, let me ask this in a different way. What can we do to get the attention of Harris County, do you think?
That is a very political question, and that's not something I've always been good at. But applying pressure to their boards is something that city council does have the ability to do. I mean, we can talk with staff at a staff level, and we can talk with their board as well. But I think from a city council level, you have more influence and more of a voice than even educated engineers going up to them and asking them the same questions.
Have we talked to the county? Because, Clear Creek goes down through League City and Webster and all that, on both Harrison and Galveston County side. Have we talked to the Galveston County Commissioners on seeing if they can help us on this?
And the Galveston County side, all four entities are part of the Mud Gully project. And Harris County Flood Control from that aspect has put a lot of money towards the Mud Gully project. It's just the de-snagging efforts that they just haven't necessarily participated in, whether it be, like Jim's saying, whether they feel that it's a positive benefit or whether or not they have so many irons in the fire that, they're putting out the fires that they can. There's a particular project on the north side of town that the Harris County Flood Control has come to us on, and there has been a lot more dialogue because of one particular location. And I think that'll help us in other efforts in getting participation.
Councilman Foreman.
I think Harris County Flood Control District reports to the Harris County Commissioner's Court. Right. And we have a Harris County Commissioner that represents the Harris County portion of Friendswood, and we can apply pressure to him and talk to Judge Emmett and say, hey, this squeaky wheel down here needs a little grease, and we really need to be pushing hard on this. This is another one of these entities, and flooding and drainage obviously is a top issue for us right now. My house flooded, a lot of people's houses flooded, and we don't want this to happen again. So I think, we have representation on at those boards. Myron, he sits on your Clear Creek Watershed Steering Committee, and he's a precinct coordinator for Harris County Flood Control District. We just need to keep talking to these people and letting them know that, hey, Harris County Flood Control District, you not de-snagging your side of the creek is not helping us, Friendswood, with the next big water flow that comes down the creek.
Yes, sir.
To add on to that too, they so far don't have funding for the third phase of the Mud Gully detention pond. The Clear Creek Steering Committee, I've been over there 12 years, and since Harvey's the first time they really showed any interest in doing something in Clear Creek. So when y'all appoint somebody to go back over there, you need somebody, maybe Mike would be good, to really hammer down on them. That's what it's going to take, because they have done nothing on their side of the creek ever.
But just to point out, Jim Hill has been going to those meetings for 13 years representing us, and he is a very loud voice in that room, because I've been to a lot of those meetings.
In any room, in fact.
In any room. So, Jim, I think we ought to talk about reappointing you. It doesn't have to be a member of city council that represents us. You got the corporate knowledge over there. I think maybe, and they give you a free lunch, right?
That's right.
That's why you go, pretty much. But no, I applaud Jim Hill for the efforts that he's made over there, because he has been our voice, and he is a squeaky wheel, I'll tell you.
Well, my record speaks for itself. They have done nothing.
Not because you're not yelling at them, though. I've heard you.
Patrick, we're not charging you to fix it. We're trying to wrestle with what we do. But here's my concern, and some of these items that have been coming up today and other times, is that what we keep hearing is other cities are getting stuff we aren't. Okay? Now, it's time to stop. It's time to stop. We got 55 inches of rain. We had 20% of our houses damaged. We were significantly impacted. I don't care whether we're considered wealthy or not. We were impacted far worse than some of these other places. Money. Now, it's up to us. It's up to us to figure out how we're going to get people's attention and do this. And we constantly have to be vigilant on this. This is a new world we're in. Harvey to us was like a terrorist event. It's an emotional scar, okay? And people up here, people in the audience were their houses were disarrayed. Them and their kids were rescued from roofs. They lived in hotels and other people's. You can make this argument. Well, we'll never see 55 inches of rain again. But I don't want to sit here and just hope that happens or doesn't happen. So I'm just saying that we have to start hitting all the right shots here, and we're gonna have to figure out how to do that and keep the pressure on. Now the next item on the agenda is one of them, which is very good that it's coming up, but that's just my opinion. It needs to be an all-consuming passion. So I'm in the middle seat today, so I get the soapbox, but. Okay, so we have to vote on your thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Item 20. You again.
So item number 20, this is for executing the ability to negotiate with our most qualified bidder. We received bids, or received qualifications, not bids. We received qualifications from two qualified firms. A committee of 3 evaluated the proposals, and we are recommending that Jeffrey S. Ward and Associates be selected. One of the questions that was brought up earlier was what are true qualifications. One of the things that actually wasn't highlighted as much in Mr. Ward's qualification packet, but back in 2006, his firm worked with Jefferson County Drainage District to get awarded the largest FEMA grant for flood mitigation in the country at the time. So Jeff Ward is very knowledgeable. He's a very good fit for our community, and he will go to bat for us as best we can.
Okay, I need a motion.
Mr. Ward representing any other local communities where we would be competing for funds?
I do not know that specifically. He has worked for other communities. He has worked for Galveston County at one point in time, but whether or not he's working for them.
But he wouldn't have any conflicts or anything like that?
No, sir. It's one of the big things that they're going to be looking at is benefit cost analysis, and that in that aspect, each resident or each parcel is stating their own case. But what Jeff will be able to do is look at the benefit cost analysis and provide.
So just like I'm doing my job right here, we have to have a motion a second before we talk about it, so.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we got a motion second now. Good, okay.
And
Who else has questions? Because I have a whole bunch. Thank you. So I have a couple questions about the contractor, and I do appreciate several people in the audience have submitted some of these to me, and some of them I actually dreamed up myself. First of all, they mentioned in their contract that they're going to have public comment about some of the things they're going to propose and costs. How are they going to do that?
The way that they've done it in the past is through public meetings.
So they will schedule these?
We would advertise and, most likely be in a room such as this that would be advertised through the PEG channel, through our website, through our notifications.
So if they were going to propose something on a portion of Clear Creek, we could make sure that the public would get to comment on that before.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have we given them any instructions on any criteria when they go look for programs for buyouts, like houses that have been flooded 3 times or 2 times or 4 times? Have we given any of that to them, or is that still to come?
No, sir. We received the qualifications on last Tuesday. So between that and the evaluations, they haven't received anything from us at this point.
Okay. And then in their bid, or in their
qualifications,
they did mention that they were going to come up with drainage improvement projects as well as looking for grants, right?
Yes, sir.
And that would be something that the citizens would also get to interact with?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
In other parts too, there was talks about possibly digging overflow channels and other possibilities. Is that also part of it? And also, I guess 3 things. Would they be looking at things like overflows, cutouts, and all that? Are they going to look at bridges? Because, the bridges were quite a bit of impediment to the flow during this storm. And then are they also going to look, at streets and upstream type of situations as well as part of this?
They would be looking at what we're asking them to help look at. They've created a team that includes, Dan Johnson, the former city engineer who did a lot of the buyout stuff after Allison. They have a company with Sam Hinosa, who is very good at 2D modeling and one of the experts within the state of Texas for 2D modeling for larger projects. Now, the entire encompass of the grant is going to be, you're going to have CDBG's funds, You're going to have elevation grants. You're going to have buyout grants. It's not just Jeff Ward and Associates that are going to be doing it. He has assembled a team so that whether it's a larger project and need more people to tackle it, or if it's a smaller project, a lot of the buyout stuff, I imagine he and Dan Johnson will be handling more one-on-one, but depending upon what we're looking at. Some of the criteria hasn't necessarily fully been explained yet.
Yeah,
So,
and we'll be setting that.
right.
with
So
them and-
as the process goes, we may be directing them to do larger and bigger things, or contracting back and looking at, hey, let's look more at these smaller things. So it's,
So
what they do is going to be more our direction.
So in summary, they're going to be looking at grant programs and all that for individual homeowners, but they're also going to be looking at engineering solutions.
Yes, sir.
And that's correct. And that would be under our guidance, and we would have plenty of public comment and all that would go around with it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm good. I mean, I like the idea that we're bringing in a specialist on this. I mean, we don't have the resources in-house, and this is part of what we were just talking about of, starting to really focus on this. So, anybody got any other questions? All right. All those in favor? Passes.
And I'll sit down.
See you, Patrick. Okay. Aubrey, you going to help us on this one? Yes. Okay. This is 21A, Ordinance T 2018-8. First reading of an ordinance amending the zoning classification for a tractor parcel containing 3.306 acres located at 2245 and 2275 Thomas Trace, Friendswood, Texas, by granting a zone classification change from Community Shopping Center, CSC, to Community Shopping Center Specific Use Permit, CSC-SUP, for the following, NAIS, okay.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll second.
I'm supposed to read everything that's underlined. So,
I thought you were just reading what's highlighted. No?
that's all highlighted.
Oh, mine's highlighted.
Okay.
So this, we held the joint public hearing for this application last month. The Planning and Zoning Commission met for their second meeting in March and did provide a unanimous recommendation in favor. We did have 3 commissioners out, so it was a 4-0 vote, but they did forward a positive recommendation. The applicant did propose some additional information since their last application. The site amenities plan was added to the ordinance as another attachment. Basically, they're proposing to add a 5-foot walking trail around their detention area, some benches and additional trees to help with screening, and then to also make the detention pond an amenity for the residential for the memory care and assisted living facility, but also adjacent residents can enjoy the property as well. If you have any questions.
Somebody from
The applicant is here, yes. Yes?
I asked if somebody from the developer was here, and we
Yes,
have
sir.
somebody. So it's my understanding there were some numbers given to us incorrectly last time on the number of residents, the type of residence. Is that correct?
No, it wasn't incorrectly given, no. Not that I'm aware of.
The residents mentioned in the last meeting were upwards of 100, is what we mentioned in the last meeting. The actual correct numbers for the memory care facility is the total full capacity is 60 residents. And there are 2 other buildings in the total for that building, 16 residents each. So it was said last time is one large number. When they're actually phase 1, phase 2, and 3 of this property.
Do we have other questions? Just, go ahead, Jim.
They did agree to have a ambulance service in-house there, is that
We
correct?
do have EMS on site, and we do have the evacuation emergency action plan in effect, and with the evacuation of all residents to a property in Round Rock, Texas. All arrangements are made and everything is there. There's a 0 impact on the EMS system for the entire city.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just for people who are listening in, this facility will not, they have an agreement, they will never call our EMS, correct?
There's no need to call EMS.
They'll never call the EMS.
24/7 911 access.
And they have if we had another Harvey type event, they have the ability to evacuate their people and not
Agreements
rely
are in
on the
place, and
city
the
to
emergency accident plan
shelter
is
them.
put in place, yes.
Could you explain about the height and the difference back to the neighborhood behind it?
Well, the ordinance, part of the SUP for this ordinance is to breach the 50-foot mark. Okay, now, it sounds like we're building the entire facility over 50 feet, when in actuality, the only thing that actually breaches the 50 feet is one gable of one attic area in the entire building. That's the main entries of the property. Everything else is at a 48.5 level. So pretty much the entire property is under the 50 feet mark. The only thing that's encroaching that is this is one little gable part that's not even a part of a window or anything that looks down anyone's yard. The initial public comments that we had that were not sure about the project was the fear that someone was going to be peering down into someone's backyard. Well, our finished floor height is third floor is at 28 feet, so a 6-foot person is going to be standing at 34 feet, not peering down in anyone's backyard. They're not standing at 50 feet. So we tried to address that in the P&Z meeting last time, as well as the fact that, part of that ordinance is this 45-degree angle that you're supposed to meet, which is, saying if you're going to be 50 feet tall, you should be 50 feet away from the nearest property line. We're on an average 300 feet away from the nearest property line, and at that point, we're an 85-degree angle anywhere to get even close to the top of the fence line. So we've, if you look at that 45-degree angle here, I mean, we're at average 300 feet, 265 to 335 feet. So we're, a football field away.
And you're going to leave the detention pond's going to have water in it and a fountain and trees around it?
It's already got
and all
water
that?
in it, it's already got a fountain. We've added the walking trail. We've added, I think, 48 live oak trees around the property, 4-inch calipers on the neighborhood side, 3-inch calipers on the property side, park benches to kind of mimic what we're doing downtown a little bit. And this is always open to the public as well. So it's not a fenced-in area for just the facility. We've basically created a 2-acre park that will always be open.
I was at Planning and Zoning, and I would like to commend this project for making every effort they could to accommodate the surrounding community. And I think all concerns were met, and I appreciate it.
Well, it's important because we live here as well. We're residents, not just developing.
I'd like to second Councilman Hill's comments. I also appreciate that you went the extra mile to create a very nice buffer between yourself and the residents. So thank you.
I know in some of your other projects, you've gone door to door and spoken to the neighbors. I presume, have you been able to do that here?
I took the time after the last meeting to meet with everyone that had an opinion and that was asking questions.
Okay.
Not really speaking against, but voicing their concerns.
Right.
We met individually with every one of them out in the hallway, and at the end of speaking to us, they realized there really wasn't anything to object to.
Okay.
And also, I'm available 7 days a week to any of those residents for questions or comments or concerns, as well as the engineer.
Louis, maybe you could just introduce yourself to everybody because you're getting all these accolades. And some people may be sitting there going, who is this great guy that we're, so maybe just tell everybody that's listening who you are.
My name is Louis Tanos. I'm the president of Tanos Construction and Development and the president of Tanos Land Holdings.
Well, we appreciate you being such an accommodating developer here at Friendswood.
I can just suggest to the engineer and the property owners what I think is a good idea to accommodate Friendswood and the citizens. That's all we can do.
Anybody else?
Our standard noticing for this is obviously, it's on the bulletin board out there. It's on our city website, I guess, and a few other places. But I don't know. There's a number of property owners here that backing right up on it. It's real permanent. It's going to change the outlook. Clearly, they got to know something was going in back there. I'm just wanting to make sure nobody wakes up one day and surprise. We followed the law, we followed the rules.
We did have public comment last meeting.
Yeah, no, it's
and some people did speak.
And again, I've seen you work on other projects. You've been real accommodating. I don't know if there's anything else that we could do or should do, but staff's got any.
Anybody got anything else? All right.
Okay.
All in favor, please raise your hand. It's 5-0. Thank you. That'll require 2 votes. It'll come up next month. B, ordinance T 2018-11, first and final reading, title ordinance adopting budget amendment. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any debate? All those in favor? Okay. Communication from mayor and council members. You want to start, Councilwoman Branson?
Thank you. Well, I first would like to thank the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District for taking the lead on the desnagging. That is a project, if you've lived in this community for any length of time at all, actually got started in the 60s. And if you attended a recent Clear Creek Steering Committee meeting, where they had the actual Army Corps of Engineers and a lot of elected officials there, they are working on this, but it is mind-boggling how many different entities are involved in this. So I just want to thank the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District for taking the lead in this. I'd also like to say, in words won't express, Roger, thank you for 29 plus excellent years. I've known you pretty much those entire 29 years, and I want to thank your dear sweet Lisa. Y'all have been a blessing to Friendswood, and I just want to say thank you, and don't be a stranger. And go Astros, tonight's opening game.
Councilman Hill?
Yeah, anybody interested in flooding, there was a good article in the Houston Chronicle yesterday about the maps. Even if they adopt the new FEMA maps, they are obsolete already because the dynamics of the flooding has changed. In Houston, we saw it here in Friendswood, places that usually flood didn't, places that don't flood did. And the ground moves, people move, people build. And it's that article is well worth your time to look it up and read it. And I'm just thinking that maybe our city, we know where every house in Friendswood flooded. I'm not so sure we couldn't just take and overlay a flood zone of our own, the Friendswood flood zone. And for our homeowners, for anybody that's interested, that this is probably where you're going to flood. And anyway, that's something y'all might want to work on in the future. And Roger, I've said it to you, I've said it before. You were absolutely the right person at the right place at the right time for our city, and I appreciate everything you've done. Roger and I have seen some good times and bad times together, and I guess that makes us what we are. But anyway, he was the right man for the job, and I appreciate everything you did, and I appreciate your wife letting you do it.
Thank you very much. And
You quit bothering her.
well, I try every day, but I don't succeed. But I thank you very much. I did want to agree with Jim. That was an excellent article on the front page of the Houston Chronicle, yesterday's paper. And one of the things it pointed out was how much flooding is done outside of any of the flood zones, regardless of what the maps say.
Councilman Foreman?
Well, I'll jump on this bandwagon, Roger, and you know, the city of Friendswood would not be where it is today without your gentle hand guiding and nurturing us along. I especially want to thank you for taking a new council member under your wing a couple of years ago and educating me and teaching me how cities operate, and so appreciate it. We will miss you. You've trained Mo well, but we're going to miss you being around here, and so thank you very much for everything you've done for Friendswood. The other thing I would say is that we have another election coming up May 5th. There's 8 people that have filed to run for 4 positions up here on the dais. 8 people working really hard, campaigning out there, and I know because I'm one of them, and it's a lot of hard work. So please do your research, come out and vote. Early voting starts April 23rd, Election Day, May 5th. Don't wait for May 5th because it's going to be crowded, I think, that day.
Councilman Gustafson?
Roger, I can't believe that this day has come. It was probably about, I guess, 6 years ago, I really met you for the first time, the time I ran and lost. And I don't know why. I guess I hadn't had enough of it, so I came back the next year and I won. But I remember asking you a question, what's it like to work for 7 bosses? And it's interesting to hear. Nobody'd ever asked you that question before. But and boy, I don't know how I would do it. You know, but you've done a hell of a job with it, Roger. I chose to move to this city 9-10 years ago. Not really realizing it at the time, but a lot of the reason I chose to move here is because of what you personally and the staff that you had assembled had done to make Friendswood the city it is. It's not often you can leave something after so many years and really look back and see what a mark you've made on so many people, not just a few, not talking about a couple of dozen at work, but we're a city of 38, 39,000 people, and you've made life better for all of us. I'm going to miss you. I was thinking tonight, I got looking down the aisle here, and when this election's over, that Councilman Foreman just referred to, I'm going to move from the bottom half of the seniority level to the upper half. It's hard to believe. And then you won't be here. And I don't know, you're a comforting presence over there. I've liked having you here. You were wonderful to me when I first came on board, you and Mo both. I still remember getting my tour of the city facilities while in retching pain from a back injury that little did I know, just a week or two later would have me having the paramedics visit my house, getting to see city staff at home. Anyway, nothing's changed. I couldn't ask for a better city manager to work with. And I went over to a League City meeting one night with their previous city manager. What a difference! We have no idea how lucky we've been. Anyway, I wish you the best in everything you do moving forward, Roger. And it's really just a heartfelt thank you, and best wishes for you moving forward. Anything I can ever do for you, please let me know. And with that, boy, I'd hate to be in your shoes, Mo. You got to feel that. Like following Jimi Hendrix or something, huh? All right, well, but if anybody can do it, you'll be the guy. So I'm looking forward to working with you as well, Mo. That's it.
Why be left out? There's an old Chinese saying that the best of all leaders are those when everything is done, the people say it happened naturally. That's how I always looked at Roger. You never saw that guiding hand. His staff loves him. He was protective of them without being overprotective. Never let us get away with nonsense. We will terribly miss you. And it's been a pleasure to work with you, and we will look forward to seeing you every once in a while. And Bo's going to do fine. He's a Houston Cougar, So there's a couple of Houston Cougars up there. So yes, and as somebody said, please vote. For all we know, there might be a lot of new faces. So I guess we'd have one more meeting, this group, and then certify the election after that. But the election will be before our next meeting, a day or two before. So please do get out and vote.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah.
If I could just say thank you publicly to all of you and just recognize what a great experience it's been for me over the years. And as was said earlier, no one person accomplishes anything by themselves. And I have been blessed to work with tremendous staff over the years, my entire career. This city is truly blessed to have the people that it has serving here. And I've been the recipient of their hard work and loved working with them all. And that is going to be missed by me, and I've promised them I'm going to come drink their coffee. So thank you all again very much.
Okay, with that, the consent agenda. Need a motion? All right. We're not allowed discussion, so vote yes, no. All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you, and thank you everyone for making this a interesting experience for me.
Good job, Sam.